I rushed into the treatment room after hearing my husband was brought in. The doctors, nurses, and my husband all looked at me. There was a moment of silence, but when I saw my husband's face, I knew he was safe and not in any immediate danger. But the next moment shocked me. My name is Tanya, and I'm a 30-year-old nurse. My husband, Steve, is 32 and works for the government. What drew me to him, unlike my past boyfriends, was how serious and responsible he seemed. Maybe it's because of my job as a nurse, but I've always found it easy to care for others. I enjoy helping people and making them feel supported. That's why helping out my past boyfriends, lending them money, or doing favors for them, became a regular thing for me, even when I knew I probably shouldn't. Many of my fellow nurses are the same, and we often talk about relationships, but my turning point came when I met Steve. I met him on a group blind date with other nurses. He seemed quiet and serious, a type I had never dated before. I liked him right away, and there were no other girls interested in him since they thought he was too plain. After a little push from me, we exchanged phone numbers, and soon after, I asked him out. Our relationship lasted for 3 years with no major fights or problems. It was smooth, which is rare since many relationships break up after a few months. But things went well with Steve. After 3 years, I told him, things are going well, so should we get married? He proposed, and we tied the knot. Steve didn't have much dating experience before me. His hobbies were reading and playing video games at home. He didn't go out much, but he loved talking about books and never ran out of things to discuss. Even though he wasn't an outdoorsy person, he had many online friends he gamed with. Sometimes, we would play games together while chatting online. Since we started dating, Steve began going out more, mostly because I'd suggest it. He wasn't against going out, he just didn't have anyone to do it with before. Steve's family lives about a 2-hour drive away. I don't see them much, but they seem kind. Steve is the youngest of 3 siblings, and his parents are elderly. After our wedding, we only visited them once during New Year's. We exchange gifts during the holidays, and I call them sometimes, but our schedules don't line up since I work night shifts. Steve and I go out together when we both have days off, and we share the household chores. I thought everything was fine between us. However, about 3 months ago, I started noticing something strange with Steve. One evening after I got home from work, I found him asleep on the sofa. A beer can was lying on the table. I said to my husband, "You'll catch a cold." He looked at me sleepily and rubbed his eyes. "Isn't it unusual for you to be sleeping here and drinking beer?" I asked. I was at an online drinking party with my gaming friends. I had too much fun and drank too much, he replied. I didn't fully understand his online world, but I thought as long as he was having fun, it was okay. That turned out to be a mistake. After that, similar incidents kept happening. One day, I noticed my husband's hair had changed. "What's up with your hair?" I asked. He had never dyed his hair before, but now it was styled and brown. "Is this okay for your job?" I asked, knowing that as a government employee, his workplace had strict rules. "What's wrong with it? I just thought I should enjoy dressing up while I'm still young. What do you think? Does it look good on me?" My husband had always been simple and didn't care much about his appearance, but now he was suddenly different. I didn't think the new look suited him, but I didn't know what to say. "It doesn't look bad," I said softly. A few days later, he got his ears pierced. I was confused. Was he going through a midlife crisis? I tried to ignore it at first, but finally, I couldn't stay quiet. "What's going on with you lately?" I asked him directly. "Nothing," he replied, and then he went to the bedroom without saying more. I knew something was wrong, but I was too busy with work. A nurse had recently retired, and I was filling in, leaving me with little time to focus on Steve. Around this time, Steve told me, "My dad hasn't been feeling well lately, so I'm going home for the weekend to check on him." His father was old, so I understood why Steve was concerned. I agreed, and after that, he started going away every weekend. I still tried to care for him in small ways, like cooking for him and texting during work, but he rarely responded. Just when I was thinking we needed to have a serious talk, I received a shocking phone call at work. "Tanya, the police are trying to reach you," one of my colleagues said, handing me the phone. I felt a wave of anxiety. "Why are the police calling me?" I asked, picking up the phone. The officer explained that Steve had been in an accident and was taken to the emergency room. "What? Is my husband okay?" I asked in a panic. The officer assured me that it wasn't life-threatening and that Steve had been taken to the hospital where I worked. I rushed to the emergency ward. asking the nurses where he was. When I found the treatment room and opened the door, everyone inside stared at me. "Excuse me, I heard my husband was brought in," I said. The doctor looked confused, and the nurse glanced nervously at me. I felt uneasy, but when my eyes met my husband's, I was relieved. The nurse quickly explained that Steve had a serious leg injury, and they had to cut his pants off to treat him. When I looked at him again, his pants had already been removed. Suddenly, Steve noticed me looking and shouted, "Tanya, don't look at me." I was confused. As a nurse, I wondered if he was embarrassed for me to see him like this, but in the medical field, it's common to cut clothing when there's a severe injury, so it didn't seem like a big deal. "Just get out of here," my husband yelled, but I didn't understand why he was acting this way. The doctors and nurses continued working quickly to treat him, ignoring his outburst, which was only natural. They couldn't afford to stop. Then, something strange caught my attention. "What is that?" I muttered to myself. On the inside of my husband's right thigh, there was a tattoo. His injury was on his left leg, but the tattoo was on his right. The tattoo had a woman's name written on it, Yasmin. Shocked, I asked, "Who is Yasmin?" Steve looked panicked, but I left the room to let the medical team finish treating him. Later, I spoke with a nurse who told me that Steve hadn't been brought to the hospital alone. He was with a woman around his age, and the nurse assumed they were a couple. When I asked the woman's name, she said it was Yasmin, the same name on my husband's tattoo. I couldn't believe it. Was my husband having an affair? My coworker described Yasmin as having brown hair, pierced ears, and, shockingly, a tattoo of my husband's name on her thigh. It was clear now, they were having an affair. But what kind of person tattoos their lover's name on their body? I thought to myself that this woman must be unstable. As I processed all of this, I remembered the call from the police. They had first tried to reach Steve's parents, but since they couldn't drive, they gave the police my contact information. This meant Steve's parents were likely worried, so I called my father-in-law. "Is Steve going to be okay?" my father-in-law asked, clearly concerned. I reassured him, saying Steve had been in an accident but wasn't in any life-threatening danger. Hearing this, my father-in-law sounded relieved. I then asked, "By the way, Dad, are you feeling better?" My father-in-law was confused. He had no idea what I was talking about. I explained, "Steve said you weren't feeling well, and that's why he's been going to take care of you every weekend." My father-in-law was shocked. "I've been perfectly fine," he said. It was then that I realized Steve had been lying to me all along. My father-in-law was in good health, so where had my husband been going every weekend? If Steve wasn't going to his parents' house, then he must have been going to meet the woman he was having an affair with, but I had no proof. After my shift, I went home without visiting Steve, who was staying in the hospital for treatment. Once I was home, I searched through his belongings. The evidence was easy to find: photos of him with the woman, hotel receipts, and even an email confirming a reservation at a romantic resort. It was clear that they had their accident on the way back from the resort. The crash happened on a mountain road, but thankfully no one else was hurt. Steve and Yasmin weren't in life-threatening condition, but Steve's leg injury would make walking difficult for a while. Normally, I should have been worried about my husband's condition as his wife, but I didn't feel that way anymore. I couldn't believe he had lied about visiting his parents and instead used that excuse to cover up his affair. I wondered if his sudden changes, like dyeing his hair and getting his ears pierced, were influenced by this woman. I spoke to a nurse I trusted and asked her to refer me to a good divorce lawyer. The next day, I went to the hospital to drop off Steve's belongings. He seemed confused, like he couldn't remember what had happened the previous day in the treatment room. But honestly, I didn't care anymore. I left without talking to him because I had to start my shift. After work, I met with the lawyer and explained everything. He told me that with all the evidence I had, I could easily file for divorce. All I wanted was to get divorced as quickly as possible. I couldn't imagine living with him again after the betrayal. My anger was much stronger than any sadness I felt. I found a new place to live and moved out, leaving only Steve's belongings behind in the house. I decided to wait until he was discharged from the hospital before finalizing the divorce. I didn't want any issues since he was in the hospital where I worked. When the day came, I went to pick Steve up from the hospital. On the way, I told him we needed to make a quick stop. He looked confused, but agreed. I took him to a family restaurant near our house, where my lawyer was already waiting. Steve seemed puzzled and tired from standing on his injured leg, so he sat down quietly. I handed him the divorce papers. "Divorce? Why?" Steve shouted, sounding shocked. I stared at him angrily for a moment. What do you mean? Why, you had an affair, you even had your accident during your romantic trip. I found all the evidence at home, and you lied about your father being sick just to see this woman. Steve's face turned pale. Do you think I'm naive? I continued. Yasmin, the woman you cheated with, is already out of the hospital. Her injuries weren't as bad as yours. I can't believe she was brought to the same hospital where I work. I smiled bitterly, and Steve looked even paler. You will pay for the pain you've caused me, I said, pushing the divorce papers and a pen toward him. He didn't pick up the pen. Is it just your leg that's injured, or have you lost the use of your hand too? I said sarcastically. He finally picked up the pen but wouldn't sign. He just stared at the papers. Why don't you sign? Are you afraid of starting over? Do you think this was just a game? I pressed him. He froze, as if I had hit a nerve. I glared at him coldly. You're kidding, right? I can't stay with a man who has his mistress's name tattooed on his body, I said. Steve looked at me, shocked. What are you talking about? He stammered. Maybe he was trying to play dumb, but I wasn't falling for it anymore. You really don't remember? I asked Steve. I was there when you were rushed to the emergency room. You were yelling at me not to look. Suddenly, Steve's face changed. Sound familiar? I saw the tattoo on your thigh, the one with Yasmin's name. What kind of man tattoos his mistress's name on his body? Steve was stunned, speechless. No, it's not what you think, he mumbled. I just sighed. My husband, with his dyed hair, pierced ears, and now a tattoo of the woman he cheated on me with. It was too much. If you wanted to be with her, you should have waited until after the divorce, I told him. While Steve was still in the hospital, I actually met Yasmin. It wasn't planned, we just bumped into each other. She was lost, looking for the gift shop, and asked me for directions. I pointed her to the shop and said, Oh, and you're Yasmin, right? My husband is Steve. Her face went pale, and she hurried away, way faster than someone who was supposedly injured. I couldn't help but call after her. Please don't run in the hospital. It was clear she was more embarrassed than I was. She probably knew I worked here, but never expected to bump into me like that. Later, I asked Steve if Yasmin had dumped him. He hadn't expected me to find out about the affair and seemed desperate to stay married, thinking he could avoid paying alimony. I couldn't believe he thought he wouldn't get caught with her name tattooed on his body. Nurses have a knack for attracting the wrong guys, I guess. When I married Steve, I thought he was different, serious, loyal, but getting a tattoo of the woman he cheated on me with, that was just the worst. I decided to leave everything to the lawyers. I had already moved out, so I told Steve he'd have to find his own way home from the hospital. Goodbye, I said, leaving him there looking pitiful, his mouth hanging open. He'd be stuck with a leg injury for a while, but honestly, he deserved it. The divorce went smoothly. I even got alimony, which left Steve broke and bankrupt. Not only that, but he also found out Yasmin was married to one of his colleagues at work. To make things even more awkward, her husband was one of Steve's online gaming buddies. Her husband filed for alimony too, and Steve had to quit his job as the scandal spread. I didn't care about the rumors or whether Steve kept his job. After the divorce was finalized, Steve's parents reached out to me, furious at what happened. When I explained everything, they apologized and promised to never let Steve hurt me again. Word got around among my coworkers, and they all laughed about it. Now, I laugh about it too. I live alone now, free to do whatever I want, and I'm happier than ever.
The sound of shattering glass jolted me from my sleep. I bolted upright, my heart racing as I fumbled for the bedside lamp. The warm glow illuminated an empty space beside me where Benjamin should have been. Ben? I called out, my voice trembling. No response. I slipped out of bed, my bare feet padding across the cold hardwood floor. As I approached the kitchen, I heard hushed voices. Benjamin's low rumble, and another, higher, more insistent. His mother, Mabel. You can't keep doing this, Mom, Benjamin was saying. It's not fair to Emma. Not fair? Mabel's voice dripped with disdain. What's not fair is how you've been neglecting me since you married her. I froze, my hand on the doorframe. This wasn't the first time I'd overheard them arguing about me, but something in Mabel's tone sent a chill down my spine. Emma's my wife, Benjamin said, his voice strained. She deserves nothing, Mabel hissed. I'm your mother. I raised you. I sacrificed everything for you. And now, when I need you most, you're choosing her. I couldn't take it anymore. I stepped into the kitchen, blinking in the harsh fluorescent light. Both of them turned to stare at me, Benjamin's face a mask of guilt, Mabel's twisted with anger. What's going on? I asked. trying to keep my voice steady. Benjamin ran a hand through his hair, avoiding my gaze. Mom's not feeling well. She called, and He came to help me. Mabel interrupted, her eyes never leaving my face. Like a good son should. I looked around the kitchen, taking in the shards of glass on the floor, the spilled water. At 3 a.m? I'm sorry, Emma, Benjamin said, finally meeting my eyes. I didn't want to wake you. You should have, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. We're supposed to be a team, remember? Mabel snorted. Team? Please, he was my son long before he was your husband. Mom, Benjamin warned, but the damage was done. I felt something snap inside me. All the times I'd bitten my tongue, all the compromises I'd made, they all came rushing back. I've tried to be understanding, Mabel. I know you're grieving Dad's death, but this has to stop. You can't keep manipulating Ben like this. Mabel's eyes widened in mock innocence. Manipulating? I'm not the one who seduced a mama's boy and tried to turn him against his family. That's enough, Benjamin shouted, startling us both. He turned to his mother, his jaw clenched. You need to go home, Mom. Now. For a moment, Mabel looked genuinely hurt. Then her face hardened. Fine, but don't come crying to me when she leaves you, just like all the others. As Mabel stormed out, slamming the front door behind her, I felt the fight drain out of me. I sagged against the counter, suddenly exhausted. Benjamin approached me cautiously. Emma, I'm so sorry. I never meant for... I held up a hand, stopping him. Don't. Just... don't. He reached for me, but I stepped back. I need some air, I said, grabbing my coat from the hook by the door. Where are you going? Benjamin asked, panic edging into his voice. I paused at the threshold, looking back at the man I thought I knew. The man I'd married, believing we'd face everything together. I don't know, I said honestly, but I can't stay here right now. As I walked out into the chilly pre-dawn air, I couldn't shake the feeling that something fundamental had shifted. The life I'd built with Benjamin, the future I'd imagined, it all seemed to be crumbling around me. And for the first time since we'd said I do, I wondered if I'd made a terrible mistake. The funeral home was suffocating, filled with the cloying scent of lilies and the hushed whispers of mourners. I stood beside Benjamin, my hand on his arm, as people filed past to pay their respects to his father. Benjamin's face was a mask of grief, but it was Mabel who commanded the room, her sobs echoing dramatically through the chapel. He was such a good man, she wailed, clutching at Benjamin's other arm. How will I ever manage without him? I bit my tongue, resisting the urge to point out that she'd been managing just fine for the past year, barely visiting her husband in the nursing home. Instead, I squeezed Benjamin's arm gently. Do you need a moment? I whispered. He shook his head, his eyes never leaving his mother. I can't leave her like this. As the day wore on, I found myself pushed further and further to the periphery. Benjamin was consumed with comforting Mabel, leaving me to handle the practical details of the funeral. By the time we returned home, I was exhausted and emotionally drained. I'm going to stay with Mom tonight, Benjamin announced as we walked through the door. I froze, my coat half off. What? Ben, you need rest. You've been with her all day. He ran a hand through his hair, a gesture I once found endearing, but now set my teeth on edge. She shouldn't be alone, Emma. She's devastated. And what about you? I asked, my voice rising. Your father just died. Don't you think we should be together? Benjamin's eyes flashed with anger. My mother needs me. I can't believe you're being so selfish right now. The word hit me like a slap. Selfish? I've been nothing but supportive. I've planned the funeral, dealt with the paperwork, all while you've been what? He challenged. Taking care of my grieving mother? I took a deep breath, trying to calm myself. Ben, I understand she's hurting, but so are you. So am I. We're supposed to lean on each other in times like this. For a moment, I saw a flicker of the man I married in his eyes. Then Mabel's voice rang out from the driveway, shrill and demanding. Benjamin, I'm waiting. Just like that, the moment was gone. Benjamin grabbed his coat and headed for the door. I'll be back in the morning, he said, not meeting my gaze. As the door closed behind him, I sank onto the couch, feeling more alone than I had in years. How had we gotten here? When had I become the outsider in my own marriage? The next few weeks were a blur of legal meetings and family dinners where I felt like an unwelcome guest. Mabel had moved into our guest room temporarily, her presence a constant reminder of my growing irrelevance in Benjamin's life. One evening I returned home to find them huddled over papers at the kitchen table. They looked up guiltily as I entered. "What's going on?" I asked, a knot forming in my stomach. Benjamin cleared his throat. "We were just discussing Dad's will. There are some complications." Mabel's eyes glittered with triumph. "Benjamin's going to be taking over the family business. It's what his father would have wanted." I stared at my husband in disbelief. "The business in Florida, the one we agreed you wouldn't touch because it would mean moving away from our life here?" Benjamin wouldn't meet my eyes. "Things have changed, Emma. Mom needs me, and the business needs someone to run it." "And what about what I need?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. The silence that followed was deafening. In that moment, I realized with startling clarity that I already knew the answer. In Benjamin's new world order, my needs didn't factor in at all. As I turned and walked out of the kitchen, leaving them to their plans, I felt something inside me harden. The life I thought we were building together was slipping away, and I was faced with a choice: fight for my marriage or accept that the man I married was gone. Either way, I knew nothing would ever be the same again. The house felt like a prison. Everywhere I turned, Mabel's presence loomed large, her knickknacks on the shelves, her perfume lingering in the air. I found myself retreating to the spare room more and more, desperate for a space that was still mine. One afternoon, as I scrolled mindlessly through my phone, an ad caught my eye: "Win a luxury spa getaway." Without thinking, I clicked and entered. "What are you doing?" Benjamin's voice startled me. I quickly locked my phone. "Nothing important." He frowned, hovering in the doorway. "Mom's asking for you. She wants help planning Dad's memorial." I bit back a sigh. "I'll be right there." As I followed Benjamin downstairs, I couldn't help but wonder when I'd become a stranger in my own home. The next few weeks passed in a blur of tension and barely concealed resentment. I threw myself into entering contests. Any distraction from the growing chasm in my marriage was welcome. One evening, as I prepared dinner, Mabel's voice drifted from the living room. "Benjamin, darling, have you thought more about the Florida house?" I froze, straining to hear Benjamin's response. "I don't know, Mom. It's a big decision. Emma and I have a life here." My heart leapt at his words, but Mabel's reply crushed that flicker of hope. "Emma will adjust. She's young. She can find work anywhere. This is about family, Benjamin, your father's legacy." I waited for Benjamin to defend me, to remind his mother that I was family too. The silence that followed spoke volumes. Unable to bear it any longer, I stormed into the living room. "Don't I get a say in this?" They both looked up, startled. Mabel recovered first, her face a mask of innocence. "Oh, Emma, dear, we were just discussing." "I heard what you were discussing," I snapped. "My entire life, apparently." Benjamin stood, reaching for me. "Emma, please, nothing's been decided yet." I stepped back out of his reach. "Hasn't it? Because it seems like every decision lately has been made without me." Mabel's eyes narrowed. "Now, Emma, don't be dramatic. Benjamin's just trying to do what's best for the family." "I am his family," I shouted, years of pent-up frustration finally boiling over. Or at least I thought I was. The room fell silent, the weight of my words hanging heavy in the air. Benjamin looked torn, his gaze darting between his mother and me. "Of course you're family," he said finally, but his voice lacked conviction. I felt something inside me break. "Am I? Because lately it feels like I'm just an inconvenience, an obstacle in your perfect mother-son relationship." Mabel gasped, clutching her chest dramatically. "How dare you? After everything I've done for this family—" "Enough," Benjamin roared, startling us both. He ran a hand through his hair, looking more lost than I'd ever seen him. I can't do this right now." Without another word, he grabbed his keys and stormed out, leaving Mabel and me staring at each other in stunned silence. As the front door slammed shut, my phone pinged. Grateful for the distraction, I glanced at the screen. My heart skipped a beat as I read the message. "Congratulations! You've won our luxury spa getaway for two." In that moment, staring at my phone while my mother-in-law glared daggers at me, I made a decision. I was done being the understanding wife, the accommodating daughter-in-law. It was time to put myself first. "I'm going out," I announced, grabbing my purse. Mabel sputtered, "But Benjamin—" "Can deal with his own mess for once," I finished, heading for the door. As I stepped outside, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. For the first time in months, I could breathe. I didn't know what the future held, but I knew one thing for certain. Something had to change, and it had to change now. I found myself at the local diner, nursing a cup of coffee that had long since gone cold. The weight of my wedding ring felt heavy on my finger, a constant reminder of the promises we'd made and broken. As I stared out the window, memories of past relationships flooded my mind. There was Mark, my high school sweetheart, whose jealousy had suffocated me. Then came David, charming but unreliable, always putting his needs before mine. And finally, Thomas, who'd seemed perfect until I caught him cheating. Each failed relationship had left its mark, shaping the woman I'd become. I'd thought Benjamin was different. He'd been kind, supportive, everything I'd ever wanted in a partner. But now... "Refill, hon?" The waitress's voice jolted me from my reverie. I nodded, managing a weak smile. As she poured the coffee, I caught sight of my reflection in the window. The woman staring back at me looked tired, defeated. When had I let myself become this person? My phone buzzed insistently. Benjamin's name flashed on the screen, along with a dozen missed calls. I silenced it, not ready to face him yet. Instead, I pulled out the spa resort brochure I'd printed earlier. 2 tickets to paradise, a chance to escape the suffocating tension at home. But as I stared at the glossy photos, a realization hit me like a punch to the gut. I didn't want to go with Benjamin. The thought was so shocking, so contrary to everything I'd been fighting for, that I nearly laughed out loud. But the more I turned it over in my mind, the more right it felt. When was the last time Benjamin and I had truly connected? When had he last chosen me over his mother? As if summoned by my thoughts, the diner's door chimed and Benjamin walked in. His eyes scanned the room frantically before landing on me. Relief washed over his face, quickly replaced by anger. "Emma," he said, sliding into the booth across from me. "What the hell? I've been worried sick." I met his gaze steadily. I needed some time to think. He ran a hand through his hair, a gesture so familiar it made my heart ache. "About what? Emma, I know things have been tough lately, but..." "Tough?" I interrupted, my voice low but intense. "Benjamin, things haven't just been tough. They've been impossible. Ever since your father died, it's like I don't exist anymore. Everything is about your mother, the business, your family's legacy. Where do I fit into all of that?" Benjamin's face crumpled. "You're my wife. Of course you fit in." "Do I?" I challenged, pulling out the spa brochure. "Because I won this, 2 tickets to a luxury resort, and my first thought wasn't excitement about going with you. It was relief at the idea of getting away from you." The words hung between us, heavy and undeniable. Benjamin stared at the brochure, then back at me, his eyes wide with hurt and confusion. "Emma, I didn't realize. I've been trying to balance everything, and I thought you understood." "I've been understanding for months." I cut him off. "I've been patient, supportive, everything a good wife should be. But I can't do it anymore, Ben. I won't." He reached across the table, grasping my hands. "Tell me how to fix this. Please, Emma, I love you." I looked into his eyes, searching for the man I'd fallen in love with, but all I saw was a stranger, torn between his wife and his mother, unable to fully commit to either. Taking a deep breath, I pulled my hands away and stood up. "I think I need more than just a few hours away, Ben. I need time to figure out if this marriage is even worth saving." The look of devastation on his face nearly broke my resolve. But as I walked out of the diner, my steps felt lighter than they had in months. For the first time in a long time, I was choosing myself, and it felt like the beginning of something new. I stared at the email in disbelief, reading it for the 3rd time to make sure I wasn't hallucinating. "Congratulations! You've won our exclusive spa resort getaway for 2. The irony wasn't lost on me. Just when I decided I needed time away from Benjamin, fate handed me the perfect opportunity. My finger hovered over the delete button. Part of me wanted to erase this complication, to continue on the path of separation I'd set for myself. But another part, a part I thought I'd silenced, whispered of second chances. Before I could overthink it, I forwarded the email to Benjamin with a simple message. "We need to talk." His response was almost immediate. "I'm on my way." As I waited, pacing our living room, I couldn't help but remember the early days of our marriage. The laughter, the shared dreams, the feeling that we could conquer anything together. When had that slipped away? The front door opened and Benjamin stepped in, looking more disheveled than I'd ever seen him. His eyes were red-rimmed, his shirt wrinkled. He'd clearly been sleeping on the couch at his mother's house. "Emma," he breathed, relief evident in his voice. "I wasn't sure you'd still be here." I gestured to the couch, maintaining my distance. "We need to discuss this spa trip." He nodded, sinking onto the cushions. "I know I don't deserve it, but I'm hoping maybe this could be a chance for us to reconnect." I felt my resolve wavering. This was the Benjamin I'd fallen in love with, vulnerable, open, putting our relationship first. But could I trust it? "What about your mother?" I asked, unable to keep the bitterness from my voice. "Won't she need you?" Benjamin flinched. "I've talked to her, explained that I need to focus on my marriage. She didn't take it well." I raised an eyebrow. "And I told her she needs to respect my decision," he said firmly. "Emma, I know I've been blind to how my actions have affected you. I've taken you for granted, and I'm so sorry." Tears pricked at my eyes, but I blinked them back. "Words are easy, Ben. It's actions that matter." He stood, crossing the room to stand in front of me. "Then let me show you. Come on this trip with me. Let me prove that you're my priority, that our marriage is worth fighting for." I wanted to believe him. God, how I wanted to. But the memory of all the broken promises, the nights spent feeling invisible in my own home, held me back. "I don't know if I can," I whispered. Benjamin's face fell, but he nodded. "I understand. I've hurt you, and I know trust has to be earned. But Emma, please give me this chance. If after the trip you still feel like our marriage can't be saved, I'll respect your decision." The sincerity in his eyes made my heart ache. This was the moment, the crossroads I'd been hurtling towards for months. I could walk away now, protect myself from further hurt. Or I could take a leap of faith, give our love one last chance. My phone buzzed, a reminder popping up. The spa reservation needed to be confirmed within the hour, or we'd lose our spot. Benjamin watched me, hope and fear warring in his expression. "Emma?" I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the decision on my shoulders. This wasn't just about a vacation. It was about the future of our marriage, about whether the love we'd built was strong enough to weather the storms we'd faced. "Okay," I said finally, my voice barely above a whisper. "We'll go. But Benjamin, this is it, our last chance." Relief flooded his face, followed quickly by determination. "I won't let you down. Not again." As I turned to confirm the reservation, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was standing on the edge of a precipice. Whether this trip would lead to reconciliation or the final nail in our marriage's coffin, one thing was certain. Nothing would ever be the same again. The morning of our spa trip arrived, and I felt a mix of hope and trepidation as I packed my bags. Benjamin had been attentive and loving in the days leading up to our getaway, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. As I zipped up my suitcase, I heard Benjamin's phone buzz repeatedly downstairs. Curiosity got the better of me, and I crept down the stairs, pausing when I heard his hushed voice. "Mom, please, we've been over this," Benjamin was saying, his tone exasperated. "I'm going on this trip with Emma. It's important for our marriage." My heart sank as I heard Mabel's shrill voice through the speaker. "But Benjamin, I need you here. The lawyer called about your father's estate. This is family business." I held my breath, waiting for Benjamin's response. This was it, the moment of truth. "I'm sorry, Mom, but Emma is my family too. We'll deal with the estate when I get back." Relief washed over me, but it was short-lived. As I turned to head back upstairs, my foot caught on the edge of the carpet. I stumbled, catching myself on the banister with a loud thud. Benjamin whirled around, his eyes wide. "Emma, how long have you been there?" I straightened up, meeting his gaze. "Long enough. I'm glad you're choosing us, Ben." He smiled, but it didn't quite reach his eyes. "Of course. Let's get going, shall we?" The drive to the spa resort was tense, filled with stilted conversation and long silences. As we pulled into the parking lot, I couldn't shake the feeling that this trip was make or break for us. We checked in and were shown to our luxurious suite. As I unpacked, Benjamin's phone buzzed again. He glanced at it, his face paling. "Everything okay?" I asked, trying to keep my voice neutral. He nodded quickly. "Just Mom again. I'll deal with it later." But as the day wore on, Benjamin grew increasingly distracted. During our couple's massage, he kept checking his phone. At dinner, he barely touched his food, his eyes darting to the exit. Finally, as we returned to our room, I'd had enough. "Ben, what's going on? You've been on edge all day." He sighed, running a hand through his hair. "I'm sorry, Emma. It's just, there's a lot going on with Dad's estate. Mom's struggling to handle it all." I felt my heart hardening. "And you think you need to rescue her, don't you?" Benjamin's silence was all the answer I needed. I turned away, fighting back tears. "I can't believe this. We're supposed to be reconnecting, and all you can think about is your mother." "That's not fair," he protested. "She needs me." "And I don't?" I whirled around, anger replacing hurt. "When do I get to be your priority, Benjamin?" His face hardened. "You know what? Maybe this was a mistake. Maybe we should just go home." The words hit me like a physical blow. Go home? To what? A marriage where I'm always second best. Benjamin's eyes flashed. "If that's how you feel, maybe we shouldn't be married at all." The room fell silent, the weight of his words hanging between us. I stared at him, searching for any sign of the man I'd married. But all I saw was a stranger, torn between his wife and his mother, unable to fully commit to either. "Is that what you want?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "A divorce?" He didn't answer immediately, and in that hesitation I found my answer. "Fine," I said, grabbing my suitcase. "If that's what you want, you can have it, but don't expect me to stick around and watch you throw away our marriage for your mother's approval." As I stormed out of the room, leaving Benjamin calling after me, I felt something inside me break. The dream of reconciliation shattered, replaced by a cold, hard reality. Our marriage was over. And for the first time, I wasn't sure if I even wanted to fight for it anymore. I stumbled out of the resort, my vision blurred by tears. The cool night air hit me like a slap, jolting me back to reality. What had just happened? How had our last chance at reconciliation turned into the final nail in our marriage's coffin? My phone buzzed incessantly, Benjamin calling, no doubt. I silenced it, unable to bear hearing his voice. Instead, I called a cab and waited in the shadows, my mind racing. As I climbed into the taxi, a sense of calm washed over me. For the first time in months, I felt clarity. I knew what I had to do. "Where to, miss?" the driver asked. I hesitated for only a moment. "The nearest hotel, please." The next morning, I woke with a sense of purpose. I checked out of the hotel and headed straight for Benjamin's house. As I pulled into the driveway, I saw Mabel's car parked out front. Of course, she was here. Taking a deep breath, I walked in. The sound of hushed voices from the kitchen stopped abruptly as I entered. "Emma!" Benjamin exclaimed, jumping to his feet. He looked terrible, dark circles under his eyes, his hair a mess. "I've been worried sick. I held up a hand, silencing him. "I'm not here to talk, Benjamin. I'm here to pack my things." Mabel's eyes narrowed. "Now, Emma, don't be hasty. Every marriage has its rough patches." "This isn't a rough patch," I interrupted, my voice steady. "This is the end." Benjamin's face crumpled. "Emma, please. We can work this out. I'll do better, I promise." I shook my head, feeling a strange mix of sadness and liberation. "It's too late for promises, Ben. You've made your choice time and time again, and now I'm making mine." As I moved towards the stairs, Benjamin grabbed my arm. "Emma, wait." I yanked my arm away, anger flaring. "Don't touch me. You lost that right when you chose your mother over me for the last time." Mabel gasped dramatically. "How dare you? After everything we've done for you." "You've done nothing for me," I spat, years of resentment boiling over. "You've manipulated and controlled Benjamin, and he's let you. Well, I'm done being the third wheel in my own marriage." I stormed upstairs, throwing clothes and personal items into a suitcase. Benjamin followed, pleading and apologizing, but his words washed over me like white noise. As I zipped up my bag, I turned to face him one last time. "I'll have my lawyer contact you about the divorce proceedings." His face paled. "Divorce? Emma, please, can't we just take some time apart, think things through?" I shook my head, feeling a strange sense of calm. "I've done nothing but think for months, Benjamin. I've given you chance after chance. I'm done." I brushed past him, heading downstairs. Mabel stood at the bottom, her face a mask of faux concern. "Emma, dear, you're being irrational. Family should stick together." "You're right, Mabel," I said, my voice dripping with sarcasm. "Family should stick together. It's a shame Benjamin never realized I was his family, too." I reached into my purse and pulled out an envelope, handing it to Benjamin. "Here, consider yourself served." His hands shook as he opened it, eyes widening as he read the divorce papers. "Emma, no." but I was already walking out the door. As I threw my suitcase in the trunk of my car, I heard Benjamin calling after me. For a moment, my resolve wavered. Then I heard Mabel's voice, shrill and demanding, and my determination solidified. I got in the car and started the engine, catching one last glimpse of Benjamin in the rearview mirror. He stood in the doorway, looking lost and broken, with Mabel hovering behind him like a vulture. As I drove away, leaving behind the shattered remains of my marriage, I felt a strange mix of grief and hope. The road ahead was uncertain, but for the first time in years, it was mine to choose. 6 months after I walked out of Benjamin's life, I found myself standing on a sun-drenched beach in Hawaii, watching the waves crash against the shore. My parents lounged nearby, their laughter carried on the breeze. This vacation, a gift to myself after finalizing the divorce, felt like a rebirth. The path to this moment hadn't been easy. There were nights I cried myself to sleep, days when the weight of my decision felt unbearable. But with each passing week, I grew stronger, more certain of my choice. As I dug my toes into the warm sand, my phone buzzed. A text from my lawyer. Final papers signed. It's official. A mix of emotions washed over me, relief, sadness, and an overwhelming sense of freedom. I was no longer Benjamin's wife, no longer Mabel's daughter-in-law. I was just Emma, and for the first time in years, that felt like enough. Emma, honey? My mother's voice pulled me from my thoughts. Are you all right? I turned to her, a genuine smile spreading across my face. I'm more than all right, Mom. I'm free. She squeezed my hand, understanding in her eyes. My parents had been my rock through this ordeal, never judging, always supporting. Their love had reminded me of what real family should feel like. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in brilliant oranges and pinks, I reflected on the journey that had brought me here. The contests I'd entered as a distraction had become a lifeline, leading me to rediscover parts of myself I'd forgotten. The spa tickets that were meant to save my marriage had instead given me the clarity to end it. My father joined us, wrapping an arm around my shoulders. Penny for your thoughts, kiddo? I leaned into his embrace, feeling a surge of gratitude. I was just thinking about how different my life is now. A year ago, I never would have imagined being here, being happy. You've always been stronger than you give yourself credit for, he said, pride evident in his voice. As we walked back to our hotel, I felt a sense of excitement I hadn't experienced in years. The future, once so terrifying in its uncertainty, now seemed full of possibility. Back in my room, I found myself drawn to the balcony. The night air was warm, filled with the scent of plumeria. In the distance, I could hear the faint strains of music from a luau. On impulse, I pulled out my phone and dialed a familiar number. It rang twice before going to voicemail. Benjamin, I said, surprised by the steadiness in my voice. I just wanted to say thank you. Not for the years we spent together, though some of them were good, but for showing me what I don't want in a partner, in a life. I hope you find happiness. I really do. But I've found mine, and it doesn't include you or your mother. Goodbye, Benjamin. As I ended the call, I felt the last piece of my old life fall away. There were no more loose ends, no more what-ifs, just the open road of my future, waiting to be explored. I thought about the woman I was when I first met Benjamin, hopeful, naive, desperate for love. And I thought about the woman I was now, stronger, wiser, knowing that the most important love was the one I had for myself. As I gazed out at the starlit sky, I made a silent promise to that younger version of myself. I would never again settle for less than I deserved. I would never again dim my light to make someone else shine brighter. The breeze picked up, carrying with it the sound of laughter from the beach below. Without hesitation, I changed into a flowing sundress and headed out. The night was young, and so was I, in spirit, in hope, in the joy of new beginnings. As I stepped onto the sand, feeling the warmth beneath my feet and the endless possibilities stretching out before me, I knew one thing for certain. The best chapter of my life was just beginning. And this time, I would be the author of my own story. The sound of hushed voices drifted through the slightly ajar door of my mother-in-law's study. I hadn't meant to eavesdrop, but the urgency in David's tone stopped me in my tracks. "Mom, we need to be careful. Amy can't find out about this," my husband whispered. I froze, my hand hovering inches from the doorknob. What couldn't I find out about? Patricia's voice, always so prim and proper, responded with uncharacteristic sharpness. "David, you're playing a dangerous game. How long do you think you can keep this up?" My heart raced. I'd always prided myself on the openness David and I shared in our marriage. What secret could be so dire that he'd keep it from me? I leaned closer, straining to hear more. "I don't have a choice," David said, his voice thick with emotion. "If Amy knew the truth, it would destroy everything we've built." The floorboard beneath my feet creaked, and the voices inside the study fell silent. I quickly retreated, my mind reeling. Later that evening, as David and I drove home from his parents' house, I couldn't shake the feeling of unease that had settled over me. "You're awfully quiet tonight," David remarked, glancing at me from the driver's seat. "Everything okay?" I forced a smile. "Just tired, I guess. Long day at work." He nodded, seemingly satisfied with my explanation. "Well, we're almost home. Maybe we can open that bottle of wine we've been saving?" "Sounds perfect," I lied, my stomach churning. As we pulled into our driveway, I decided to test the waters. "So how's your mom doing? She seemed a bit off tonight." David's hands tightened on the steering wheel. "Oh, I didn't notice anything unusual." "Really?" I pressed. "I thought I heard you two having a pretty intense conversation in her study." His face paled slightly. "You must have misheard. We were just discussing some boring family business stuff." I nodded, not believing him for a second. "Of course, my mistake." Inside our home, I watched David closely as he uncorked the wine and poured 2 glasses. His movements were stiff, mechanical. He was hiding something, and it was eating him up inside. "David," I said softly, taking my glass, "you know you can tell me anything, right? No matter what it is." He paused, the wine bottle hovering over his glass. For a moment, I thought he might confess, but then he smiled, and the mask slipped back into place. "Of course, Amy. You know I'd never keep anything important from you." The lie hung heavy between us. That night, as David slept soundly beside me, I lay awake, my mind racing. What could be so terrible that he felt he needed to hide it from me? Was our entire marriage built on a foundation of secrets and lies? I thought back to the day we met 8 years ago. I'd been a newly minted social worker, idealistic and eager to change the world. David had swept me off my feet with his charm and his passion for helping others. We'd bonded over our shared desire to make a difference. Now I wondered if I'd ever really known him at all. The next morning I rose early, leaving David still asleep. I needed to clear my head, to figure out my next move. As I sipped my coffee on our back porch, my phone buzzed with a text from Olivia, my best friend and coworker. "Emergency at the shelter. Can you come in ASAP?" I hesitated, torn between my professional obligations and my personal crisis. But maybe throwing myself into work was exactly what I needed right now. "On my way," I replied, grabbing my keys. As I backed out of the driveway, I caught a glimpse of David watching me from our bedroom window. The look on his face was one of guilt and fear. Whatever he was hiding, I was determined to uncover the truth, no matter the cost. I spent the next few days in a fog of suspicion and hurt, watching David's every move for clues. The weight of his secret pressed down on me, making it hard to breathe. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. "David, we need to talk," I said one evening as he walked through the door. He froze, his hand still on the doorknob. "About what?" I took a deep breath. "About whatever it is you're hiding from me." David's face paled. "Amy, Don't lie to me," I cut him off. "I heard you talking to your mother. What's going on?" He slumped into a chair, looking defeated. "I didn't want you to find out like this." "Find out what?" I demanded, my voice rising. David ran a hand through his hair. "It's Michael. He's in trouble." "Your brother? What kind of trouble?" "His divorce hit him hard. He lost his job, he's drinking. Mom's been trying to help, but it's not enough." I felt a flicker of sympathy, quickly extinguished by anger. "And you've been giving them money, our money?" David nodded, unable to meet my eyes. "How much?" I asked, dreading the answer. He mumbled a number that made my head spin. It was more than we had in our savings account. "Are you insane?" I exploded. "We've been saving for our future, for a family, and you've just been handing it over to your deadbeat brother?" "He's not a deadbeat," David protested weakly. "He's going through a rough patch that's costing us everything we've worked for," I shouted. "How could you do this without talking to me?" "I knew you wouldn't understand," David said, his voice hardening. "Family comes first, Amy. I thought you knew that. I thought we were family, I shot back. Or does that only apply to the people you're related to by blood? David flinched as if I'd slapped him. That's not fair. No, what's not fair is you making huge financial decisions behind my back, I said, my voice shaking with rage. What's not fair is you choosing your brother over our marriage. I'm not choosing anyone over our marriage, David insisted. I'm trying to help someone in need. Isn't that what you do every day at work? Don't you dare compare this to my job. I hissed. I help people who have nowhere else to turn, not entitled man-children who can't handle a divorce. David's face darkened. You don't know what you're talking about. Michael's been through hell. And now we're going through hell because of him, I retorted. How long were you planning to keep this from me? Until we were completely broke? David's silence was damning. I can't believe this, I said, shaking my head. I don't even know who you are anymore. Amy, please. David reached for me, but I stepped back. We can figure this out. Can we? I asked, my voice hollow, because right now I'm not sure I can trust anything you say. I grabbed my keys and headed for the door. Where are you going? David called after me. I need some air, I said, not looking back. Don't wait up. As I drove aimlessly through the darkening streets, my mind raced. How had we gotten here? How had the man I loved, the man I thought I knew better than anyone, become a stranger? My phone buzzed with a text from David. I'm sorry. Please come home so we can talk. I ignored it, pulling into the parking lot of a bar I used to frequent in my college days. As I ordered a drink, I caught my reflection in the mirror behind the bar. The woman staring back at me looked lost, hurt, and angry. Rough night? The bartender asked sympathetically. I laughed bitterly. You have no idea. As I nursed my drink, I wondered how I could ever trust David again. And more importantly, what I was going to do next. The weeks following my confrontation with David were a blur of tension and resentment. We moved through our shared space like ghosts, barely acknowledging each other's presence. The weight of his betrayal hung heavy in the air, suffocating any attempt at normalcy. One evening, as I sat at our kitchen table reviewing case files, David cleared his throat. Amy, we need to talk about this. I looked up, my jaw clenched. About what? How you've been lying to me for months? He sighed, running a hand through his hair. I know I messed up, but Michael's family too. Don't you think he deserves our help? Our help? I scoffed. You mean my help, my money, my sacrifices. That's not fair, David protested. We're a team, remember? I slammed my hand on the table, making him jump. A team doesn't keep secrets, David. A team makes decisions together. Just then, David's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, his face paling slightly. Who is it? I demanded. It's Michael, he stammered. He needs more money. I felt something snap inside me. Absolutely not. We're done bankrolling your brother's pity party. David's eyes flashed with anger. You don't understand. He's in real trouble this time. And what about us? I shouted, gesturing around our modest apartment. We've put our lives on hold, our dreams of starting a family, all for what? So Michael can avoid growing up? It's not that simple, David argued. He's dealing with depression, addiction. Then he needs professional help, I cut him off. Not handouts from his big brother. David's phone buzzed again, more insistently this time. He looked at me pleadingly. I have to take this. As he stepped out onto the balcony to answer the call, I felt a surge of frustration and helplessness. Was this what our marriage had become? A series of lies and divided loyalties? I found myself staring at our wedding photo on the mantel. We looked so happy, so full of hope for the future. Where had those people gone? When David came back inside, his face was grim. Michael's in the hospital. He tried to hurt himself. My heart sank. Despite my anger, I couldn't help feeling a twinge of sympathy. Is he okay? David nodded, his eyes brimming with tears. They're keeping him for observation, but he needs us, Amy. Now more than ever. I took a deep breath, trying to sort through the whirlwind of emotions. What exactly are you asking me to do? I think, David hesitated, I think he needs to come stay with us for a while, just until he gets back on his feet. The words hit me like a physical blow. Are you serious? You want to move your unstable brother into our home? It wouldn't be for long, David pleaded. Just a few weeks, maybe a month. I laughed bitterly. Right, because Michael has such a great track record of getting his life together quickly. Amy, please, David's voice cracked. I don't know what else to do. He's my brother. And I'm your wife, I shot back. Or have you forgotten that? The silence that followed was deafening. We stood there, staring at each other across a chasm that seemed to grow wider by the second. Finally, I spoke, my voice barely above a whisper. If you bring Michael here, I'm leaving. David's face crumpled. You don't mean that. Try me, I said, surprised by the steel in my own voice. As I turned to walk away, David called out, What happened to for better or for worse? I paused at the doorway, not looking back. This isn't worse, David. This is you choosing your family over me. Again. I grabbed my keys in my purse, ignoring David's pleas as I walked out the door. As I drove away, my vision blurred with tears. I realized I was facing an impossible choice. My marriage or my self-respect. And for the first time, I wasn't sure which one I valued more. I threw myself into work with a fervor that bordered on obsession. The shelter's constant demands provided a welcome distraction from the chaos of my personal life. Every night, I came home late, exhausted but grateful for the reprieve from the tension that now defined my marriage. One particularly grueling day, I was sorting through a mountain of paperwork when Olivia poked her head into my office. Amy, you look like hell, she said bluntly. What's going on? I hesitated, but the concern in her eyes broke my resolve. The whole story came pouring out, David's deception, Michael's troubles, the ultimatum I'd given. Olivia listened intently, her brow furrowing. When I finished, she leaned back in her chair. Honey, I hate to say this, but are you sure there isn't more to this story? What do you mean? I asked, my stomach clenching. It's just, I've known David for years. This doesn't sound like him. Are you sure Michael is the only one he's helping? Her words hit me like a punch to the gut. I'd been so focused on Michael, I hadn't even considered other possibilities. You think he might be lying about where all the money is going? Olivia shrugged. I'm just saying, it might be worth digging a little deeper. That night, I couldn't shake Olivia's words. When I got home, I found David asleep on the couch, his phone lying face up on the coffee table. Before I could stop myself, I picked it up. My hands shook as I scrolled through his recent calls. Michael's name appeared frequently, but there was another number, unlabeled, that showed up even more often. My heart raced as I tapped on it. A woman's voice answered. David? I wasn't expecting to hear from you so late. I hung up immediately, my mind reeling. Who was she? Why was David calling her so frequently? Just then David stirred. Amy? Is that you? I quickly put his phone down. Yeah, just got home. He sat up, rubbing his eyes. We need to talk about Michael. He's being released tomorrow, and I think... Not now, David. I cut him off. I'm tired. We can discuss it in the morning. As I lay in bed that night, sleep eluded me. The unknown woman's voice echoed in my head, along with 1,000 unanswered questions. The next morning, I confronted David over breakfast. Who is she? He looked up from his coffee, confusion etched on his face. Who? The woman you've been calling. Don't lie to me, David. I saw your phone. His face paled. You went through my phone? Answer the question, I demanded, my voice shaking. David sighed heavily. It's not what you think, Amy. She's a therapist. I blinked, caught off guard. A therapist? He nodded. For Michael, I've been coordinating his care to start trying to get him the help he needs. Relief washed over me, quickly followed by a wave of shame. Why didn't you tell me? Because I knew how you felt about the situation. I didn't want to burden you with more of Michael's problems. I sat down heavily, my emotions a tangled mess. David, we were supposed to be partners. You can't keep shutting me out like this. He reached for my hand. You're right. I'm sorry. No more secrets, I promise. As I looked into his eyes, I wanted desperately to believe him, but a nagging doubt lingered. Was this really the whole truth, or just another carefully crafted lie? Okay, I said finally. But things need to change. We can't go on like this. David nodded eagerly. Absolutely. Whatever it takes. As we cleared the breakfast dishes together, a fragile peace settled over us. But in the back of my mind, Olivia's words still echoed. Was I missing something crucial? I made a decision then. I would give David one last chance to come clean. But if I found out he was still hiding anything, it would be the last straw. Our marriage hung by a thread, and I wasn't sure how much longer I could hold on. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was still off. Despite David's promises of transparency, the tension in our home remained palpable. I needed answers, and I knew just where to start. On a sunny Saturday morning, I drove to Patricia's house, my stomach in knots. As I pulled into the driveway, I noticed Michael's beat-up car parked out front. Perfect. I'd kill 2 birds with 1 stone. I rang the doorbell, plastering on a smile as Patricia answered. "Amy, what a lovely surprise," she exclaimed, her voice a touch too high. "I hope I'm not interrupting anything," I said, stepping inside. "Not at all, dear. Michael and I were just chatting." As we entered the living room, I saw Michael sprawled on the couch, looking far too comfortable for someone supposedly in crisis. "Hey, Amy," he mumbled, barely looking up from his phone. "Michael," I nodded curtly. "How are you feeling?" He shrugged. "Better, I guess. Thanks for asking." I turned to Patricia, who was fidgeting with her necklace. "I thought we could catch up. It's been a while since we've had a proper talk." Patricia's smile faltered slightly. "Of course, dear. Would you like some tea?" As she bustled off to the kitchen, I noticed a stack of travel brochures on the coffee table. Curiosity piqued. I picked one up. "Luxury Bahamas Getaway," the cover proclaimed. "Planning a trip?" I asked Michael, trying to keep my voice neutral. He grinned. "Yeah, Mom thinks a vacation might help me clear my head. Pretty sweet, huh?" I felt the blood drain from my face. A luxury vacation? While David and I were pinching pennies to support him? Patricia returned with the tea, her eyes widening as she saw the brochure in my hand. "Oh, that's just a bit of wishful thinking," she said quickly. "Really?" I countered, my anger rising. "Because Michael seems to think it's a done deal." Patricia shot Michael a warning look. "Amy, dear, it's not what you think." "Then what is it?" I demanded, my voice shaking. "Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you're planning an extravagant vacation while my husband and I sacrifice everything to keep Michael afloat." Michael sat up, his face flushing. "Hey, that's not fair. I've been through hell." "And what about us?" I shouted, surprising even myself with the intensity of my outburst. "Do you have any idea what this has done to my marriage, to our future?" Patricia stepped between us, her hands raised placatingly. "Amy, please calm down. We're family." "Family?" I laughed bitterly. "Is that what you call this? Lying, manipulating, taking advantage of David's generosity?" "We haven't taken advantage of anyone," Patricia insisted. "David offered to help. With necessities." I cut her off. "Not luxury vacations." Michael stood up, his face dark with anger. "You don't know anything about what I've been through. You have no right to judge." "I have every right," I shouted back. "It's my life, my future you're gambling with." The room fell silent, the weight of my words hanging heavy in the air. Patricia looked close to tears, while Michael glared at me with undisguised hostility. "I think," Patricia said quietly, "that perhaps it's best if you leave, Amy." I nodded, suddenly feeling drained. I couldn't agree more. As I walked to my car, my hands shaking, I pulled out my phone and dialed Olivia's number. "Liv? It's me. I need your help with something." "Of course, honey. What's going on?" I took a deep breath, steeling myself for what I was about to say. "I need you to recommend a good private investigator. It's time I found out what's really going on." As I hung up, I felt a strange mix of dread and determination. Whatever David was hiding, whatever game his family was playing, I was done being a pawn. It was time to take control of my own story. I started the car, my mind racing with possibilities. One thing was certain, nothing would ever be the same after this. And for the first time in months, that thought didn't terrify me. It empowered me. I couldn't sleep that night, my mind racing with questions and suspicions. By morning, I'd made up my mind. I was going to confront Patricia and Michael head-on. Consequences be damned. I drove to Patricia's house, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. As I pulled up, I saw David's car in the driveway. My stomach dropped. What was he doing here? I marched up to the front door and rang the bell, my heart pounding. Patricia answered, her face paling when she saw me. "Amy, this isn't a good time." I pushed past her into the house. "It's never a good time for the truth, is it, Patricia?" In the living room, I found David and Michael, both looking startled by my sudden appearance. The travel brochures were still scattered on the coffee table. "What's going on here?" I demanded, my voice shaking with anger. David stood up, his hands raised placatingly. "Amy, calm down. We can explain." "Explain what?" I shouted. "How you're all planning a luxury vacation while David and I struggle to make ends meet. How you've been lying to me for months." Michael scoffed. "You don't know what you're talking about." I rounded on him. "Oh, Really? Then enlighten me, Michael. Tell me why you deserve a trip to the Bahamas while my husband and I put our lives on hold for you. Patricia stepped between us. Amy, please. This isn't what it looks like. Then what is it? I asked, my voice breaking. Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you're all in on some big secret, and I'm the only one being left in the dark. David approached me, his face etched with concern. Amy, honey, you've got it all wrong. The vacation, it's not what you think. Then what is it, David? I asked, tears welling in my eyes. Because I'm tired of the lies and the half-truths. I want the whole story, right now. The room fell silent, the tension palpable. Finally, Patricia spoke up. The vacation, it was meant to be a surprise, for you and David. I blinked, caught off guard. What? David sighed heavily. We've all been pitching in to plan a family vacation, a chance for all of us to reconnect and heal. Michael's been helping with the arrangements as part of his therapy. I felt the ground shift beneath my feet. But, the money, your secret phone calls. The money was for Michael's therapy and some of the vacation expenses. David explained, and the calls were to the travel agent and therapist. I didn't want to ruin the surprise. I sank into a chair, my mind reeling. Why didn't you just tell me? Patricia sat beside me, taking my hand. We thought we were doing the right thing, keeping it a secret. We never meant to hurt you, Amy. As the truth sank in, I felt a mix of relief and embarrassment wash over me. But something still nagged at the back of my mind. David, if this was all innocent, why did you seem so guilty when I confronted you before? David's face fell, and he exchanged a look with Patricia that sent a chill down my spine. There's something else, Amy. Something we haven't told you. My heart raced. What is it? David took a deep breath. It's about Michael's ex-wife. She's threatening to take away his visitation rights with the kids. That's why we've been so secretive. We've been trying to gather evidence to help his case. The room spun around me. Just when I thought I had a handle on the truth, another bombshell dropped. And you didn't think I deserved to know this? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. We were trying to protect you, Patricia said softly. We didn't want to burden you with more family drama. I stood up abruptly, feeling suffocated. I need some air. As I stumbled out onto the porch, I heard David calling after me, but I couldn't face him. Not now. My world had been turned upside down once again, and I didn't know what to believe anymore. I got into my car, my hands shaking as I turned the key. As I drove away, I realized I was at a crossroads. Could I trust David and his family again? Or was this just another elaborate lie? One thing was clear, I needed answers, and I needed them now. No matter what it took, I was going to uncover the whole truth, once and for all. I sat in Olivia's office, my hands trembling as I recounted the confrontation at Patricia's house. Olivia listened intently, her brow furrowed with concern. Amy, she said gently when I finished, I hate to say this, but something still doesn't add up. The vacation, Michael's custody battle, it feels like they're hiding something bigger. I nodded, a lump forming in my throat. I know, that's why I need your help. Olivia leaned forward. What do you need? A private investigator, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. I need to know the truth, once and for all. Olivia's eyes widened, but she didn't hesitate. She scribbled a name and number on a sticky note. Call this guy. He's discreet and thorough. The next week was a blur of secret meetings and clandestine phone calls. I felt like I was living a double life, playing the role of supportive wife while secretly unraveling the threads of David's deception. Finally, the PI called with news. Mrs. Thompson, I have something you need to see. We met in a quiet coffee shop. The PI slid a manila envelope across the table. Are you sure you want to open this? He asked, his eyes sympathetic. I took a deep breath and nodded. I need to know. Inside were photos, bank statements, and a detailed report. As I flipped through the evidence, my world crumbled around me. David wasn't just supporting Michael. He was funding a lavish lifestyle for another woman, a young, beautiful woman I'd never seen before. The vacation plans, the secret phone calls, the drained bank accounts, it all led back to her. I felt physically ill. How long, I managed to choke out. The PI's voice was gentle. Based on the evidence, at least a year. A year. While I'd been worrying about our future, pinching pennies, and feeling guilty for doubting David, he'd been living a double life. I stumbled out of the coffee shop, gasping for air. My phone buzzed. A text from David. Can't wait to see you tonight. Love you. The words, once a comfort, now felt like a knife twisting in my gut. I drove to Olivia's house on autopilot, my mind a whirlwind of betrayal and rage. She opened the door, took one look at my face, and pulled me into a fierce hug. "Oh, honey," she murmured. "What did you find out?" Through tears, I told her everything. Olivia listened, her face a mix of shock and fury. "That bastard," she hissed. "What are you going to do?" I stood up, suddenly feeling more clear-headed than I had in months. "I'm going to confront him. Tonight. And I want you there with me." Olivia nodded without hesitation. "I've got your back." We drove to my house in tense silence. As we pulled up, I saw David's car in the driveway. My heart raced, but I felt a strange calm settle over me. I walked into the house, Olivia right behind me. David was in the kitchen, humming as he cooked dinner. "Amy," he said, smiling as he turned. His face fell when he saw Olivia and the look on my face. "What's going on?" I tossed the manila envelope on the counter. "Why don't you tell me, David?" He paled as he flipped through the contents, his hands shaking. "Amy, I can explain." "Explain what?" I shouted, my calm evaporating. "How you've been lying to me for a year, how you've been stealing our future to fund your affair." David's face crumpled. "It's not what you think." "Then what is it?" I demanded, tears streaming down my face. "Because from where I'm standing, it looks like our entire marriage has been a lie." David reached for me, but I recoiled. "Don't touch me," I hissed. In that moment, looking at the man I thought I knew, I felt something inside me break. But alongside the pain, I felt a surge of strength I didn't know I possessed. "I want you out," I said, my voice steady. "Tonight. And don't even think about going to your family for help. They're going to know exactly what kind of man you really are." As David stammered and pleaded, I turned my back on him, walking out of the kitchen with Olivia by my side. For the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe again. The truth had shattered my world, but it had also set me free. The day I filed for separation was the day I reclaimed my life. As I walked out of the lawyer's office, divorce papers in hand, I felt a strange mix of grief and liberation. The life I'd known was over, but a new chapter was beginning. I'd called a family meeting at Patricia's house. It was time for everyone to know the truth. As I pulled up, I saw David's car already there. My hands shook as I grabbed the manila envelope from the passenger seat. Patricia answered the door, her face etched with concern. "Amy, dear, what's going on? David's been beside himself." I brushed past her into the living room. David, Michael, and Patricia's husband, George, were all there. David stood up when he saw me, his eyes pleading. "Amy, please, can we talk about this privately?" I shook my head. "No more secrets, David. It's time everyone knew the truth." I dumped the contents of the envelope onto the coffee table. Photos of David with his mistress, bank statements showing the money trail, the PI's detailed report, it was all there. The room fell silent as David's family absorbed the evidence of his betrayal. Patricia's hand flew to her mouth, Michael looked like he might be sick, and George's face hardened into a mask of disappointment. "How could you?" Patricia whispered, her voice breaking. David's shoulders slumped. I don't know. I made a mistake." "A mistake?" I cut in, my voice sharp. "A year-long affair isn't a mistake, David. It's a choice you made every single day while I worried about our future, while your family struggled." Michael stood up, his face flushed with anger. "You told me you were helping me, but you were just using me as a cover for this?" David looked around the room, desperation in his eyes. "Please, I can explain." "There's nothing to explain," George said, his voice cold. "You've betrayed your wife, your family, and everything we thought you stood for." As the reality of his actions sank in, David crumpled into a chair, head in his hands. For a moment, I felt a flicker of pity. But then I remembered all the lies, all the nights I'd spent worrying and doubting myself, and my resolve hardened. "I've filed for separation," I announced. "I think it's best if we don't contact each other for a while." Patricia reached for my hand. "Amy, I'm so sorry. We had no idea." I squeezed her hand gently. "I know. This isn't your fault." As I turned to leave, David called out, his voice breaking. "Amy, please, I love you. We can fix this." I paused at the door, looking back at the man I'd once built my life around. "No, David, we can't. But I can fix myself." The weeks that followed were a whirlwind of legal meetings, therapy sessions, and long talks with Olivia. Slowly, I began to rediscover the woman I'd been before. Strong, independent, full of dreams. One evening, as Olivia and I shared a bottle of wine, she asked, "So, what's next for Amy Thompson?" I smiled, feeling a spark of excitement I hadn't felt in years. "I'm thinking a solo trip. Somewhere I've always wanted to go but never had the courage." Olivia raised her glass. "To new beginnings and solo adventures." As we clinked glasses, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. The pain of betrayal was still there, a dull ache in my chest, but alongside it was something new. Hope, possibility, and a fierce determination to write my own story. The next morning, I booked a ticket to Bali. As I confirmed the reservation, I caught sight of my reflection in the computer screen. The woman looking back at me was different from the one who'd stumbled upon David's secret all those months ago. She was stronger, wiser, and ready to embrace whatever came next. I thought about the family vacation David and his family had been planning, the one that had started this whole journey of discovery. In a way, I was still taking that trip, just not in the way any of us had expected. As I closed my laptop, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. The road ahead was uncertain, but for the first time in a long time, I was excited to see where it might lead. My story wasn't over, it was just beginning. And this time, I was the one holding the pen. "Ethan, honey, I found it!" I exclaimed, my heart racing as I burst through the front door. The scent of lasagna wafted from the kitchen, but my excitement overshadowed my hunger. The perfect plot of land for our dream home! Ethan emerged from the kitchen, wiping his hands on a dish towel. His smile didn't quite reach his eyes. "That's great, Liv. Where is it?" I pulled out my phone, fingers fumbling as I scrolled through the photos. "It's just outside the city limits. You know that area near Willow Creek? It's got this gorgeous view of the mountains, and there's even a little stream running through the back of the property." As I rambled on, describing every detail of our future paradise, I couldn't help but notice Ethan's enthusiasm waning. His responses became shorter, his nods less frequent. Something was off. "What's wrong?" I asked, lowering my phone. "Don't you like it?" Ethan sighed, running a hand through his hair. "It sounds beautiful. Liv, it's just, isn't it a bit far from everything?" I frowned. "It's only a 30-minute drive from the city. We've talked about wanting some space, remember?" I know. It's just..." He trailed off, avoiding my gaze. Before I could press further, the doorbell rang. Ethan seemed almost relieved as he went to answer it. "Martha!" I heard him exclaim. "Great. Just what I needed, my mother-in-law dropping by unannounced." "Again. Hello, darling," Martha cooed, enveloping Ethan in a hug that lasted a beat too long. She breezed past me with barely a nod. "I brought dessert. I hope you don't mind me joining you for dinner." I bit back a retort. Of course we minded. This was supposed to be our night to discuss our future home, but Ethan, ever the dutiful son, was already ushering her into the dining room. As we sat down to eat, I tried to steer the conversation back to our house plans. "Martha, we were just discussing some potential locations for our new home. What do you think about the Willow Creek area?" Martha's fork clattered against her plate. "Willow Creek? But that's so far away. Ethan, surely you're not considering moving that far from me?" I watched Ethan carefully, waiting for him to defend our plans. Instead, he mumbled something about just exploring options and quickly changed the subject. The rest of the dinner passed in a blur of Martha's chatter and my growing unease. As I cleared the plates, I overheard Martha in the living room, her voice low but clear. "Ethan, darling, you know I worry about you living so far away. What if something happened to me? Who would take care of me?" I leaned closer to the doorway, straining to hear Ethan's response. "Don't worry, Mom. I won't move far from you. I promise." The plate I was holding slipped from my fingers, shattering on the kitchen floor. Ethan and Martha rushed in, concern etched on their faces. "Olivia, are you all right?" Ethan asked, reaching for the broom. I stood there, frozen, as the realization washed over me. All our talks, all our plans, had they meant nothing to him? Was I the only one who had been dreaming of our future together? "I'm fine," I managed to choke out. "Just a little clumsy." As I bent to help clean up the mess, I caught Martha's triumphant smirk. In that moment, I knew this wasn't just about a house. This was about control, about who would shape our future. And right now I was losing. I straightened up, meeting Ethan's gaze. "We need to talk," I said, my voice steadier than I felt, alone. The tension in the room was palpable. Martha's smirk faded, replaced by a look of concern. Ethan nodded, his face a mixture of guilt and apprehension. As Martha gathered her things to leave, I steeled myself for the conversation ahead. One thing was clear. Our dream home was about to become a battlefield. The moment Martha's car pulled out of our driveway, I whirled to face Ethan. "What the hell was that about?" I demanded, my voice trembling with anger and hurt. Ethan's shoulders slumped. "Liv, I can explain." "Explain what? That you've been lying to me this whole time? That all our plans for our dream home were just a fantasy?" He reached for my hand, but I pulled away. "It's not like that," he pleaded. "I do want a home with you. I can't leave my mom alone." I laughed bitterly. "Alone? Martha's more involved in our lives than some married couples I know. When were you planning on telling me that moving away was never an option?" Ethan's face crumpled. "I didn't know how. I was afraid you'd react like this." "Like what? Like a wife who just found out her husband's been deceiving her?" We stood in tense silence, the shattered plate on the floor a fitting metaphor for our broken dreams. Finally, Ethan spoke. "Look, we can still build our house. We'll just find a place closer to Mom, maybe within a 10-minute drive." I felt my heart sink. This wasn't a compromise, it was a surrender. "And what about my dreams, Ethan? What about the life we planned together?" "We can still have that life," he insisted, "just with Mom nearby." I closed my eyes, trying to quell the storm of emotions raging inside me. When I opened them, I saw Ethan watching me anxiously, like a child waiting to be forgiven. "Fine," I said, my voice hollow. "We'll look for places closer to your mother." Relief washed over Ethan's face. He moved to hug me, but I stepped back. "I'm going to bed," I muttered, leaving him standing alone in the kitchen. As I lay in bed that night, sleep eluding me, I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd just lost something precious. It wasn't just about the house anymore. It was about trust, about the future we'd planned together. And for the first time since we'd gotten married, I wondered if Ethan and I wanted the same things after all. The next morning, I woke to the smell of coffee and bacon. Ethan was in the kitchen, a forced cheerfulness in his voice as he greeted me. "Morning, Liv. I made breakfast." I nodded, accepting the peace offering for what it was. As we ate in uncomfortable silence, Ethan cleared his throat. "So I was thinking we could start looking at properties this weekend. There's a nice development about 5 miles from Mom's place." I set down my fork, appetite gone. 5 miles? Ethan, that's practically next door." He had the grace to look sheepish. "Well, it would make it easier for her to visit, and for us to check on her." "Check on her?" I repeated incredulously. "Your mother is healthier than both of us combined. She doesn't need checking on." Ethan's jaw tightened. "She's getting older, Liv. We need to be there for her." "And what about being there for each other, for our marriage?" Before Ethan could respond, his phone buzzed. He glanced at it, then back at me apologetically. "It's Mom. She wants to know if we can come over for dinner tonight to discuss house plans." I stood up abruptly, my chair scraping against the floor. "You've got to be kidding me." "Liv, please, she's just trying to help." "Help? Or control?" I snapped. "You know what? Go ahead. Have dinner with your mother. Plan our entire future with her. I'm sure you two will be very happy together." I stormed out of the kitchen, ignoring Ethan's calls. As I slammed our bedroom door shut, I caught a glimpse of myself in the mirror. The woman staring back at me looked tired, angry, and most of all, lost. In that moment, I realized this wasn't just about a house anymore. This was about the rest of my life. And for the first time, I wasn't sure if Ethan would be part of it. I never thought I'd be spending my Saturday afternoon house hunting with my mother-in-law, but here I was, trapped in the back seat of Martha's sedan as she chattered away about the perfect neighborhoods we simply must consider. Ethan sat in the passenger seat, nodding along like an obedient puppy. "Oh, and there's this lovely development just 2 streets over from me," Martha gushed. "Wouldn't that be convenient?" I bit my tongue, reminding myself that I was trying to compromise. "Actually, Martha, I was thinking we could look at that new community near Willow Creek. It's still only a 20-minute drive from you." Martha's eyes narrowed in the rearview mirror. 20 minutes? But what if there's an emergency?" "Mom, we've talked about this," Ethan said softly. "Willow Creek isn't that far." I felt a glimmer of hope. Was Ethan finally standing up to his mother? But Martha wasn't done. "Well, I suppose we could look, but I really think you should consider something closer. After all, when you have children, you'll need me nearby to help. The car swerved slightly as Ethan's head snapped towards his mother. Children, Mom, we haven't even decided if we want kids yet. Martha waved her hand dismissively. Oh, nonsense. Of course you'll have children. I won't be denied grandchildren, Ethan. I felt my blood boiling. Martha, that's not really your decision to make. She glanced back at me, her smile tight. Of course not, dear. I'm just saying what's best for the family. The rest of the drive passed in tense silence. When we finally arrived at the first property, I practically leaped out of the car, desperate for fresh air. As we toured the house, Martha's domineering presence became impossible to ignore. She critiqued everything from the kitchen layout to the color of the bathroom tiles. This simply won't do, she declared. The master bedroom is much too small for a nursery to be attached. I exchanged a panicked look with Ethan, but he just shrugged helplessly. By the third house, I was at my wit's end. Martha had vetoed every property for increasingly ridiculous reasons, all while Ethan stood by silently. Well, Martha announced as we left the last house, I think it's clear none of these will work. But don't worry, I have the perfect solution. Ethan perked up. You do? Martha beamed. Of course, why don't you just buy my house? I can move into the guest house in the back, and you'll have plenty of room to start your family. It's perfect. I felt the blood drain from my face. Martha, that's very generous, but it's brilliant, Ethan exclaimed. Mom, are you sure? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Ethan, can I talk to you for a moment? Alone? I dragged him away from Martha's triumphant smile. Have you lost your mind? I hissed. We can't live in your mother's house. Ethan looked bewildered. Why not? It solves all our problems. All our problems? Ethan, it creates a whole new set of problems. We'd be living under your mother's roof, playing by her rules. What about our dreams, our independence? He had the audacity to look hurt. I thought you were trying to compromise. Compromise? I sputtered. This isn't a compromise. It's a complete surrender. Before Ethan could respond, Martha's voice rang out. Everything okay over there, dears? I was thinking we could go back to my place and start planning the renovations. I have some wonderful ideas for the nursery. I watched as Ethan's face lit up at his mother's words, and in that moment, I saw our future unfold before my eyes. A life spent in Martha's shadow, our every decision scrutinized and controlled by her domineering presence. As we drove back to Martha's house, our potential future home, I felt a cold realization settle in my chest. This wasn't just about a house anymore. This was about the life I wanted, the marriage I thought I had, and the future I was rapidly losing control of. I looked at Ethan, chatting animatedly with his mother about paint colors and furniture arrangements, and wondered if he even noticed I was there, or if he cared. Weeks had passed since our disastrous house hunting expedition with Martha, and the tension in our home was thick enough to cut with a knife. Ethan and I barely spoke, tiptoeing around each other like strangers. The dream house that was supposed to bring us closer had become a wedge driving us apart. One evening, as I sat at the kitchen table poring over house plans, still desperately clinging to the hope of finding a compromise, the doorbell rang. My stomach dropped. I knew who it was before I even opened the door. Olivia, dear, Martha chirped, breezing past me into the house. I hope I'm not interrupting anything important. I forced a smile. Not at all, Martha. What brings you by? She waved a folder in the air. I've been working on some ideas for the new house. I think you'll love them. Before I could protest, she had spread the papers across the table, covering my carefully crafted plans. My jaw clenched as I saw what she'd done. These weren't just ideas. They were complete architectural drawings. Martha, I began, trying to keep my voice level. We appreciate your input, but Ethan and I haven't even decided on a location yet. She patted my hand condescendingly. Oh, don't worry about that. I've taken care of everything. I've put a down payment on that lovely lot next door to me. Surprise! I felt the blood drain from my face. You, what? Isn't it wonderful? Martha beamed. Now we can be one big happy family. The front door opened and Ethan walked in. Hey, what's going on? He asked, taking in the scene. Martha rushed to him, enveloping him in a hug. Oh, Ethan, I was just telling Olivia about our new home. Isn't it exciting? I watched Ethan's face, waiting for him to set his mother straight. but to my horror, a smile spread across his face. "Mom, that's amazing. Thank you so much." Something inside me snapped. "Are you kidding me?" I exploded. "Ethan, how can you be okay with this? This is our home, our future. We're supposed to decide these things together." Ethan's smile faltered. "Liv, come on, Mom's just trying to help." "Help," I laughed bitterly. "This isn't help, it's a hostile takeover of our lives." Martha gasped dramatically. "Olivia, how can you say such things? I'm only thinking of what's best for my family." "Your family?" I spat. "What about our family, Ethan? What about the life we plan together?" Ethan looked torn, his eyes darting between his mother and me. "Liv, please, we can make this work. It'll be great, you'll see." I shook my head, tears stinging my eyes. "No, Ethan, this isn't what I want. This isn't the life I signed up for." Martha stepped forward, her voice sickly sweet. "Now, Olivia, don't be dramatic. Once we're all settled in the new house, you'll see how wonderful it can be. And just think, when the babies come." "Babies," I interrupted. "Martha, we've told you we're not even sure if we want children yet." Martha waved her hand dismissively. "Nonsense. Every woman wants children, and you're not getting any younger, dear." I felt like I was suffocating. This woman was planning out my entire life without my consent, and Ethan was letting her. No, not just letting her. Encouraging her. "I can't do this," I whispered, backing away from them both. "I won't do this." "Liv, wait." Ethan reached for me, but I jerked away. "No, Ethan, I'm done waiting. I'm done compromising. I'm done being the third wheel in my own marriage." I grabbed my keys and purse, ignoring their protests as I headed for the door. As I reached for the handle, Martha called out, "Oh, and Olivia? I hope you don't mind, but I've decided to move in with you both once the house is built." "It just makes sense, don't you think?" I froze, my hand on the doorknob. In that moment, I realized I had a choice to make. I could stay and fight a losing battle against Martha's dominance and Ethan's compliance, or I could walk away and reclaim control of my life. With a deep breath, I opened the door and stepped out into the night, leaving behind the suffocating future Martha had planned and the husband who couldn't or wouldn't stand up for me. I spent the night at my best friend Sarah's place, tossing and turning on her lumpy couch. By morning, I was exhausted but resolute. I needed to talk to Ethan, to make him understand how serious this situation had become. When I returned home, Ethan was pacing in the living room. He looked up as I entered, relief washing over his face. "Liv, thank God, I was worried sick." I held up a hand to stop him. "We need to talk, Ethan. Really talk." We sat on opposite ends of the couch, the distance between us feeling like a chasm. I took a deep breath and began, "Ethan, this situation with your mother has gone too far. She's taking over our lives, and you're letting her." Ethan's brow furrowed. "She's just trying to help, Liv. You know how much she cares about us." "Cares about us?" I echoed incredulously. "Ethan, she put a down payment on a house without consulting us. She's planning to move in with us. How is that caring?" He shifted uncomfortably. "Mom's getting older. She needs us." "And what about what we need?" I countered. "What about our marriage? Our future?" Ethan's silence spoke volumes. I pressed on, my voice trembling. "I can't live like this anymore, Ethan. I feel like I'm suffocating. Your mother is making all our decisions, and you're just letting it happen." He looked away, his jaw clenching. "What do you want me to do, Liv? She's my mother." "And I'm your wife," I exclaimed, tears stinging my eyes. "Or have you forgotten that?" Ethan reached for my hand, but I pulled away. "Of course I haven't forgotten I love you, Liv." "Then act like it," I pleaded. "Stand up to your mother. Tell her we need our space. Tell her we'll make our own decisions about our home, our future, our family." He hesitated, and in that moment I saw our entire future laid out before us. A life of constant interference, of decisions made for us, of dreams slowly suffocated under Martha's overbearing presence. I don't know if I can do that, Liv," Ethan finally whispered. The words hit me like a physical blow. I stood up, needing to put distance between us. "Then I don't know if I can do this anymore, Ethan." His head snapped up, panic in his eyes. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying that I need you to choose, me or your mother's control over our lives." The silence that followed was deafening. Ethan opened his mouth, closed it, then tried again. "Liv, please, don't make me choose. There has to be a way we can all be happy." I shook my head, a bitter laugh escaping me. "That's just it, Ethan. We can't all be happy. Not like this. Your mother will never be satisfied unless she's running our lives, and I'll never be happy living under her thumb. Just then, Ethan's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, then back at me apologetically. It's Mom. She wants to know if we can come over to discuss the house plans. I felt something inside me break. Are you going to answer it? Ethan's finger hovered over the phone, indecision written all over his face. In that moment, I knew. I knew that no matter what he said, no matter what promises he made, nothing would change. Martha would always come first. You know what? I said, my voice eerily calm. Go ahead, go to your mother's, plan your future with her. I won't be a part of it anymore. Ethan's eyes widened. Liv, what are you saying? I walked to our bedroom, pulled out a suitcase, and started throwing clothes into it. I'm saying I'm done, Ethan. I can't do this anymore. I won't do this anymore. As I zipped up the suitcase, I heard Ethan's phone buzz again. Martha, no doubt, wondering why he hadn't responded yet. I looked at Ethan, standing frozen in the doorway, torn between his phone and me. You should answer that, I said softly. Wouldn't want to keep your mother waiting. With that, I grabbed my suitcase and walked out, leaving behind the man I thought I'd spend my life with and the future that now felt like a prison. As I closed the front door behind me, I heard Ethan's voice, small and defeated, answering his phone. Hi, Mom. I got into my car, hands shaking as I gripped the steering wheel. I didn't know where I was going, but I knew one thing for certain. I was taking back control of my life, starting now. I'd been staying at my parents' house for a week, ignoring Ethan's calls and messages. My mother hovered anxiously, while my father muttered about that spineless boy under his breath. I appreciated their support, but I knew I had to face Ethan eventually. When I finally agreed to meet him at a neutral coffee shop, my hands shook as I gripped my latte. Ethan looked terrible. Unshaven, dark circles under his eyes. A part of me wanted to comfort him, but I steeled myself against the impulse. Liv, he began, his voice hoarse. I'm so sorry. Please, come home. We can work this out. I took a deep breath. Ethan, I can't come home until we address the real issue here. Your mother's control over our lives has to stop. He nodded eagerly. I know. I've talked to Mom. She understands now. She won't interfere anymore. Hope flickered in my chest, but I squashed it down. I'd heard these promises before. What exactly did you tell her? Ethan shifted uncomfortably. I explained that we need our space, that we'll make our own decisions about the house. And, I pressed, what about her moving in with us? His hesitation told me everything. Ethan, I said, my voice low and dangerous, tell me the truth. Was that always the plan, for your mother to live with us? He couldn't meet my eyes. Liv, you have to understand. Mom's getting older. She needs us. The hope I'd been nurturing crumbled to dust. So you lied to me. All this time you knew she'd be moving in with us. I didn't lie, he protested weakly. I just didn't tell you everything. I laughed bitterly. That's the same thing, Ethan. You've been planning our future with your mother, not with me. That's not true, he exclaimed. I want a future with you, Liv. I love you. Do you? I challenged. Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you love your mother more than you love me or our marriage. Ethan's face crumpled. How can you say that? I'm trying to take care of both of you. No, Ethan, you're trying to please your mother at the expense of our relationship, and I won't be a part of it anymore. His eyes widened in panic. What are you saying? I took a deep breath, steeling myself for what I was about to say. I'm saying that unless you can stand up to your mother, unless you can put our marriage first, I don't see a future for us. Liv, please, he begged. I'll do better. I'll talk to Mom again. We can find a compromise. I shook my head. No more compromises, Ethan. I need you to choose, me or your mother's control over our lives. The silence stretched between us, heavy with the weight of years of love and shared dreams. Finally, Ethan spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. I can't abandon my mother, Liv. She needs me. In that moment, I felt something inside me break. The last thread of hope I'd been clinging to snapped. Then I guess we have our answer, I said, my voice surprisingly steady. I stood up, gathering my purse. Ethan reached for my hand, but I pulled away. Liv, wait. Please don't go. I love you. I looked at him, this man I'd planned to spend my life with, and felt nothing but a deep, aching sadness. Sometimes love isn't enough, Ethan, not when it comes with conditions and lies. As I walked out of the coffee shop, I heard Ethan call my name one last time. But I didn't turn back. I couldn't, because I knew if I did, I might waver. And I couldn't afford to waver, not anymore. In my car, I sat for a long moment, tears streaming down my face. My phone buzzed, a text from Ethan. "Please Liv, let's talk more, I can change." But as I stared at those words, I realized something. I didn't want Ethan to change. I wanted him to have been different all along. I wanted a partner who would have stood up for our relationship from the beginning, not someone who needed ultimatums to do the right thing. With shaking hands, I typed out a response. "I'm sorry, Ethan. It's too late. I'll be by tomorrow to pick up my things." As I hit send, I felt a strange mix of grief and relief wash over me. The future I'd imagined was gone, but in its place was the possibility of something new, something that was entirely mine. I started the car, wiping away my tears. It was time to start over, to build a life that was truly my own. And for the first time in a long time, I felt ready to face whatever came next. The day I went to collect my things from Ethan's house was the hardest day of my life. Every object I packed was a memory, a reminder of the future we'd planned together. As I folded my clothes into boxes, I heard the front door open. "Liv?" Ethan's voice called out, tinged with desperation. "Are you here?" I steeled myself, taking a deep breath before responding. "In the bedroom." He appeared in the doorway, his eyes red-rimmed and pleading. "Please, don't do this. We can work it out. I'll tell Mom she can't move in. I'll do whatever you want." I shook my head, continuing to pack. "It's too late, Ethan. This isn't just about your mother anymore. It's about trust, about building a life together. You've shown me where your priorities lie." "But I love you," he insisted, moving closer. I stepped back, maintaining the distance between us. Sometimes love isn't enough. Just then we heard another voice, Martha's. "Ethan? Olivia? Are you home?" My blood ran cold. Of course she would be here now. Ethan looked panicked, caught between his mother and me once again. Martha bustled into the room, her eyes widening at the sight of my packed boxes. "What's going on here?" "I'm leaving, Martha," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "Ethan and I are separating." Martha gasped dramatically. "Separating? But why? Ethan, what have you done?" I watched as Ethan crumbled under his mother's accusatory glare. I didn't, Mom, please." In that moment, seeing Ethan revert to a chastised child in front of his mother, any lingering doubt I had about my decision vanished. "This isn't Ethan's fault, Martha," I said, surprising myself with my calmness. "It's ours. We want different things from life, and it's time we both accepted that." Martha's face hardened. "Nonsense. You're just being selfish, Olivia. Ethan needs his family. He needs me." "No, Mom," Ethan finally spoke up, his voice shaky but determined. "Liv's right. I've been trying to please everyone, and in the process, I've hurt the person I love most." For a fleeting moment, hope flickered in my chest. Was Ethan finally standing up to his mother? But Martha wasn't done. "Ethan, darling, you're confused. Let's sit down and talk about this. I'm sure we can find a solution that works for everyone." I watched as Ethan's resolve wavered, his eyes darting between his mother and me. In that moment I knew that no matter what he said now, nothing had really changed. The pattern would continue, with Martha manipulating, Ethan capitulating, and me being pushed aside. "There's nothing to discuss," I said firmly, zipping up my last suitcase. "I've made my decision." "Liv, please," Ethan begged, reaching for my hand. I pulled away, the finality of my actions hitting me like a physical blow. "I'm sorry, Ethan. I truly am. But I can't live like this anymore. I deserve better. We both do." As I walked out of the bedroom, carrying my bags, I heard Martha's voice behind me. "Let her go, Ethan. She clearly doesn't understand the importance of family." I paused at the front door, turning back one last time. Ethan stood there, torn between following me and comforting his mother. The sight broke my heart all over again. "Goodbye, Ethan," I said softly. "I hope you find happiness." With that, I walked out, closing the door on my marriage and the life I thought I would have. As I loaded my car, my hands shaking and tears streaming down my face, I felt a mix of grief and relief wash over me. Sitting in the driver's seat, I took a moment to collect myself. My phone buzzed, a text from my best friend Sarah. "Are you okay? Do you need me to come over?" I stared at the message, suddenly overwhelmed by the reality of what I'd just done. I was alone. Truly alone for the first time in years. The thought was terrifying, but also exhilarating. With trembling fingers, I typed out a response. I'm not okay, but I will be. Can we meet for coffee? I think I need to talk. As I hit send and started the car, I realized something. This wasn't just an ending. It was also a beginning, a chance to rediscover who I was without Ethan, without Martha's influence. A chance to build a life that was truly my own. Taking a deep breath, I pulled away from the curb, leaving behind the house that was never really a home. I didn't know what the future held, but for the first time in a long time, I felt ready to face it, on my own terms. 6 months after the divorce, I was finally starting to feel like myself again. I'd moved into a cozy apartment, thrown myself into my work, and even started dating again. Life wasn't perfect, but it was mine. Then on a crisp autumn morning, my phone rang. It was my father. "Olivia," he said, his voice grave. "I thought you should know. I had to let Ethan go from the company." My heart sank. Despite everything, I still cared about Ethan's well-being. "What happened?" Dad sighed. "He mishandled some sensitive client information. It was a major breach of company policy. I had no choice." I thanked him for letting me know and hung up, my mind reeling. I knew how much that job meant to Ethan. It was his lifeline after our divorce. Later that afternoon, as I was leaving my office, I saw a familiar figure waiting by my car. Ethan looked terrible, disheveled, unshaven, with dark circles under his eyes. "Liv," he said, his voice cracking. I didn't know where else to go. I approached cautiously. "Ethan, what are you doing here?" "I lost my job," he blurted out. "Your dad, he fired me. I don't know what to do. Mom's been difficult. She keeps saying I should fight the dismissal, that your dad only fired me to hurt her. I need your help, Liv. Please." For a moment, I felt a surge of sympathy. This was the man I'd loved, the man I'd planned to spend my life with. But then I remembered all the broken promises, all the times he'd chosen his mother over me. "I'm sorry, Ethan," I said, my voice firm but kind. "But I can't help you. This is something you need to figure out on your own." His face crumpled. "But Liv, I have nowhere else to turn. You're the only one who understands. You're the only one who can help me stand up to Mom." I shook my head. "No, Ethan, that's not my job anymore. It never should have been. You need to learn to stand on your own 2 feet. "But I love you," he whispered, reaching for my hand. I stepped back. "And I loved you. But love isn't enough when there's no trust, no partnership. You made your choice, Ethan. Now you have to live with it." As I got into my car, I saw Ethan's defeated form in my rearview mirror. It broke my heart, but I knew I was doing the right thing, for both of us. That evening, as I sat on my balcony watching the sunset, I reflected on how much my life had changed. A year ago, I would have done anything to help Ethan, to fix his problems. But now I realized that by always being his safety net, I'd been enabling his dependence on others. My phone buzzed with a text from Sarah. "Girls' night still on for tomorrow?" I smiled, typing back a quick, "Absolutely." As I set my phone down, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. I'd lost the future I thought I wanted, but I'd gained something far more valuable: independence, self-respect, and the courage to put myself first. I thought about all the women out there who might be struggling like I had, torn between their own needs and the demands of others. If I could tell them one thing, it would be this: your life is your own. Don't let anyone, not a partner, not a parent, not society, make you feel like you have to sacrifice your happiness for theirs. The next morning, I woke up feeling lighter than I had in years. As I got ready for work, I caught sight of myself in the mirror. The woman staring back at me was stronger, wiser, and more confident than she'd ever been. I picked up my phone and opened my social media app. After a moment's hesitation, I began to type, "To all the women out there feeling trapped or silenced, your voice matters. Your dreams matter. You matter. Don't be afraid to stand up for yourself, to demand respect, to walk away from situations that diminish you. It's not easy, but I promise you, it's worth it. You are worth it." As I hit post, I felt a surge of empowerment. This was my story, but it didn't have to be unique. If my experience could help even one woman find the strength to take control of her life, then every tear, every heartache would have been worth it. I grabbed my keys and headed out the door, ready to face whatever the day might bring. The future was uncertain, but for the first time in a long time, I was excited to see what it held, because whatever came next, I knew I had the strength to handle it. On my own terms, in my own way, And that, I realized, was the greatest victory of all. I stood in the kitchen, my hands trembling as I gripped the edge of the counter. Marianne's words echoed in my head, each one more unsettling than the last. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. "Alexandra?" Marianne's voice called from the living room. "Are you all right, dear?" I plastered on a smile and walked back into the room, carrying a tray with tea and biscuits. "I'm fine, Marianne. Just needed a moment to collect myself." Marianne, my mother-in-law, sat in her favorite armchair, her silver hair neatly styled despite the confusion in her eyes. She'd been living with us for 6 months now, ever since her Alzheimer's diagnosis. Most days were a struggle, but today was different. "Now tell me again what you saw," I said, setting the tray down on the coffee table. Marianne leaned forward, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "I saw Louis, clear as day, sneaking out of the house at midnight. He was carrying a suitcase and talking on his phone. I heard him say, 'I'll be there soon, sweetheart.' I felt my heart skip a beat. Louis, my husband of 15 years, had been acting strange lately. Late nights at the office, mysterious phone calls. But this was something else entirely. "Are you sure it wasn't just a dream, Marianne?" I asked, hoping against hope that she'd say yes. She shook her head vehemently. "No, Alexandra. I may be losing my mind, but I know what I saw. Your husband is up to something, and it's not good." I sank onto the couch, my mind racing. Could it be true? Was Louis really sneaking around behind my back? The front door opened, and Louis walked in, his briefcase in hand. He looked surprised to see us both sitting there. "Hey, what's going on?" he asked, his tone casual but his eyes darting between us. I stood up, my heart pounding. "Louis, we need to talk," he frowned, setting his briefcase down. "Can it wait? I've had a long day at work and I'm exhausted." "No, it can't wait," I said firmly. "Your mother saw you leaving the house last night, at midnight, with a suitcase." Louis's face paled, but he quickly recovered. "Mom must have been dreaming. You know how she gets confused sometimes." Marianne bristled. "I'm not confused, Louis. I know what I saw." Louis ran a hand through his hair, looking exasperated. "Look, I don't know what you think you saw, but I was here all night. Maybe you heard the neighbor leaving for his night shift?" I watched him closely, searching for any sign of deception. "Then why did she hear you say sweetheart on the phone?" His eyes widened for a split second before he laughed nervously. "This is ridiculous. You're both imagining things." "Am I?" I challenged, my voice rising. "Because you've been acting strange for weeks now. Late nights, secretive phone calls. What's really going on, Louis?" He stepped back, his face hardening. "I don't have to explain myself to you. I work hard to provide for this family, and this is the thanks I get? Wild accusations based on the ramblings of a confused old woman?" Marianne gasped, tears welling in her eyes. I felt a surge of anger rise within me. "How dare you speak to your mother like that?" I snapped. "She may be struggling, but she's not a liar." Louis grabbed his briefcase. "I'm not dealing with this right now. I'm going out." As he stormed towards the door, I called after him. "If you walk out that door, Louis, don't bother coming back tonight." The door slammed behind him, leaving Marianne and me in stunned silence. I sank back onto the couch, my head spinning. What had just happened? Was this the beginning of the end of my marriage? Marianne reached out and patted my hand. "I'm sorry, dear. I didn't mean to cause trouble." I squeezed her hand, forcing a smile. "You didn't cause anything, Marianne. If there's trouble, it's because Louis brought it on himself." As I sat there, comforting my mother-in-law, I couldn't shake the feeling that my life was about to change dramatically, and I had no idea if I was ready for what was coming. I couldn't sleep that night. Louis hadn't come home, and Marianne's words kept replaying in my mind. As the first light of dawn crept through the curtains, I made a decision. I needed answers. While Marianne slept, I snuck into Louis's home office. My hands shook as I rifled through his desk drawers. Nothing seemed out of place until I reached the bottom drawer. There, tucked beneath a stack of old files, was a shoebox. My heart raced as I lifted the lid. Inside were receipts, dozens of them. Expensive restaurants, jewelry stores, hotel rooms, all dated over the past 6 months. "Oh, Louis," I whispered, my voice breaking. "What have you done?" A floorboard creaked behind me. I whirled around to find Marianne standing in the doorway, her eyes clear and focused. "You found something, didn't you?" she asked softly. I nodded, unable to speak. Marianne crossed the room and sat beside me, her wrinkled hand covering mine. "Show me," she said. Together, we pored over the receipts. With each new discovery, my anger grew. How could Louis do this to us? "I told you he was up to no good," Marianne said, her voice tinged with sadness. "My son, I raised him better than this." I looked at her, surprised by her lucidity. "Marianne, how are you feeling?" She smiled wryly. "I have my good days and bad days, dear. Today, it seems, is a good day and a bad one all at once." Just then we heard the front door open. Louis was home. "Quick," I whispered, shoving the receipts back into the shoebox. "We can't let him know we found these." We hurried out of the office, trying to look casual as Louis appeared in the hallway. He looked disheveled, his eyes bloodshot. "Where have you been?" I demanded, my voice sharper than I intended. Louis flinched. I stayed at a friend's place. I needed time to think." "A friend's place?" Marianne echoed, her tone dripping with disbelief. "Which friend, Louis?" He glared at his mother. "That's none of your business. Look, I'm sorry about last night. I shouldn't have spoken to you like that." I crossed my arms, the weight of the receipt's secrets heavy on my shoulders. "You're right, you shouldn't have. But that doesn't explain your behavior lately." Louis sighed, running a hand through his hair. "I've been under a lot of stress at work. Big project, long hours. I know I haven't been myself." "Is that all it is?" I pressed, searching his face for any sign of guilt. He met my gaze, his expression unreadable. "Of course, what else would it be?" The lie hung in the air between us, thick and suffocating. I wanted to scream, to confront him with the evidence I'd found, but something held me back. I needed more proof. "Fine," I said, my voice cold. "Go get cleaned up. We'll talk later." As Louis disappeared upstairs, Marianne squeezed my hand. "Don't let him fool you, Alexandra. Trust your instincts." I nodded, a plan forming in my mind. "I won't. In fact, I think it's time we did some investigating of our own." Marianne's eyes lit up with a mischievous glint. "What did you have in mind?" "I'm not sure yet," I admitted, "but I know we can't sit back and let Louis destroy this family. Whatever he's hiding, we're going to find out." As we stood there, united in our determination, I felt a strange mix of dread and excitement. The life I thought I knew was crumbling around me, but from the ashes, a new strength was emerging. "We're in this together," Marianne said, her voice stronger than I'd heard in months. I squeezed her hand, grateful for her support. "Together," I agreed. Upstairs, the shower started running. Louis had no idea what was coming, but soon, very soon, his secrets would be exposed, and when they were, I'd be ready. I sat across from the private investigator, my hands clutching a manila envelope. Marianne's words echoed in my head. "We need to know the truth, Alexandra, no matter how much it hurts." "Mrs. Thompson," the investigator said, his voice gentle, "are you sure you want to see what's inside?" I took a deep breath and nodded. "I have to know." As I opened the envelope, my heart raced. Photos spilled out onto the table, Louis with a young woman holding hands, kissing. My stomach churned. "There's more," the investigator said softly. I flipped through the photos, each one a dagger to my heart. Then I saw it. Louis and the woman, cooing over a baby. "No," I whispered, my voice breaking. "It can't be." The investigator leaned forward. "I'm sorry, Mrs. Thompson, but it appears your husband has another family." I stumbled out of the office, my world spinning. How could Louis do this? How could he betray not just me, but Marianne too? When I got home, Marianne was waiting, her eyes full of concern. "Alexandra, what did you find out?" I collapsed onto the couch, the tears finally coming. Between sobs, I told her everything. The affair, the other woman, the baby. Marianne's face hardened. That ungrateful boy, after everything we've done for him. As my tears subsided, anger began to take their place. "What are we going to do, Marianne?" She took my hand, her grip surprisingly strong. "We're going to fight, dear. We're going to make him pay for what he's done." Just then we heard Louis's key in the lock. I quickly wiped my eyes, steeling myself for the confrontation. "Hey, I'm home," Louis called out, his voice cheerful. He walked into the living room, faltering when he saw our expressions. "What's wrong?" I stood up, my voice steady despite my racing heart. "We need to talk, Louis," he frowned. "About what?" I pulled out one of the photos and held it up. "About her, and about your child." The color drained from Louis's face. He stumbled backward, grasping for words. I can explain." "Explain?" Marianne's voice was sharp as a knife. Explain how you've been lying to us for months, how you've betrayed your wife and abandoned your mother. Lewis's eyes darted between us, panic setting in. It's not what you think. I was going to tell you, I swear. When? I demanded. When were you going to tell us about your secret family? He reached for me, but I stepped back. Alexandra, please. I love you. It was a mistake. A mistake, I laughed bitterly. A mistake is forgetting to buy milk. This is a betrayal, Lewis. This is the end of our marriage. His face crumpled. No, please. We can work this out. I'll end it with her, I promise. Marianne stood up, her voice ice cold. You've made your choice, Lewis. Now you have to live with it. As Lewis pleaded and made excuses, I felt a strange calm settle over me. The shock and pain were still there, but underneath a steely resolve was forming. I want you out of this house, I said, cutting off his rambling. Tonight. But where will I go? Lewis asked, his voice small. That's not our problem anymore, Marianne replied. You have another family now, remember? As Lewis trudged upstairs to pack a bag, Marianne turned to me. Are you all right, dear? I took a deep breath. No, I'm not. But I will be. She nodded, a glint of determination in her eyes. We both will be. And Lewis, he's going to regret the day he ever thought he could outsmart us. As we heard Lewis moving around upstairs, I realized this was just the beginning. The life I thought I knew was over, but a new chapter was starting, and this time I was going to write the rules. A week had passed since I'd confronted Lewis with the photos. He'd been staying at a hotel, calling daily with tearful apologies and promises to change. I let his calls go to voicemail, each one fueling my determination to uncover the full truth. Alexandra, Marianne called from the living room, her voice unusually sharp. You need to see this. I rushed in to find her holding Lewis's laptop, her face pale. What is it? I was trying to find his bank statements, she said, her hands shaking. But I found something much worse. I took the laptop, my heart pounding. On the screen was an email draft addressed to me and Marianne. As I read, my world crumbled around me. My dearest Alexandra and Mom, by the time you read this, I'll be gone. I'm sorry for the pain I'm causing, but I can't live this lie anymore. I've found true love and happiness with Cynthia and our son Jacob. I've already filed for divorce, and I'm leaving you both in capable hands. The house and all assets will be yours, Alexandra. Mom, I've arranged for the best care facility to take you in. Please forgive me someday. Lewis. I stared at the screen, numb with shock. He was going to abandon us, I whispered. He had it all planned out. Marianne's eyes flashed with anger. That ungrateful, selfish boy, how dare he? Just then we heard a key in the lock. Lewis walked in, looking haggard but determined. Alexandra, Mom, we need to talk, he said, his voice steady. I slammed the laptop shut, fury coursing through me. You're damn right we do. Lewis flinched at my tone but pressed on. I've made a terrible mistake. I want to make things right. Right? I laughed bitterly. Like abandoning us for your new family? Is that your idea of right? His eyes widened in shock. How did you? We know everything, Lewis, Marianne cut in, her voice ice cold. Every lie, every betrayal. I held up the laptop. Were you ever going to tell us to our faces? Or were you just going to disappear one day? Lewis collapsed onto the couch, his head in his hands. I'm so sorry. I was confused, scared. I didn't know what to do. So you decided to run away? I spat. To dump your mother in a care home and leave me with a house full of memories? He looked up, tears in his eyes. I'll do anything to fix this. Please, just tell me what you want. I exchanged a glance with Marianne, seeing my own anger and hurt reflected in her eyes. In that moment, something shifted inside me. The pain was still there, but it was overshadowed by a fierce determination. What I want, I said slowly, is the truth. All of it. No more lies, no more evasions. Lewis nodded frantically. Of course, anything. And then, I continued, my voice growing stronger, I want you to leave. For good. His face crumpled. Alexandra, please. No, I cut him off. You made your choice, Lewis. Now you have to live with it. Marianne stood up, her eyes blazing. You're no son of mine. Not anymore. As Lewis broke down, pleading and sobbing, I felt a strange calm settle over me. I turned to Marianne, seeing the same resolve in her eyes. What now? She asked softly. I took a deep breath, my mind racing with possibilities. Now we take control. We're not going to be victims in his story anymore. As Lewis's sobs echoed through the house, I realized this was a turning point. The life I thought I knew was over, but a new chapter was beginning. and this time I was going to write the ending. I couldn't sleep that night. Lewis's confession and subsequent departure left the house feeling hollow. As dawn broke, I found myself in his study, searching for any clue that might explain his betrayal. That's when I found it. Tucked away in a locked drawer was a manila envelope. My hands trembled as I opened it, revealing a stack of legal documents. Divorce papers already signed by Lewis. "Oh my God," I whispered, my voice breaking the eerie silence. But there was more. A letter, addressed to me, fell from the envelope. With shaking hands, I unfolded it and began to read. "Alexandra, by the time you read this, I'll be gone. I'm sorry for the pain I'm causing, but I can't live this lie anymore. Cynthia and I are expecting another child, and I need to be there for my new family. I've arranged for everything. The house is yours, and I've set up a trust for Mom's care. Please try to forgive me someday. Lewis." The words blurred as tears filled my eyes. Another child? A trust for Marianne? He'd planned every detail of his escape. "Alexandra?" Marianne's voice called from the hallway. "Are you in there?" I quickly wiped my eyes. "Yes, come in." Marianne entered, her face etched with concern. "What's wrong, dear? You look like you've seen a ghost." "Look." I handed her the letter, watching as her expression changed from confusion to shock to fury. "That spineless, selfish—" She trailed off, her hands shaking. "How could he do this to us?" I showed her the divorce papers. "He's thought of everything, Marianne. He was just going to disappear and leave us to pick up the pieces." Marianne's eyes narrowed. "Not if we have anything to say about it." Her determination sparked something in me. The shock and pain began to give way to a simmering anger. "You're right," I said, standing up straighter. "We're not going to let him get away with this." Marianne nodded, a glint in her eye. "What do you have in mind?" I looked at the divorce papers, an idea forming. "He wants a clean break? Fine. But we're going to do this on our terms." I grabbed a pen and crossed out Lewis's signature on the papers. "I'm not signing these. Not yet." Marianne smiled, a hint of her old mischief returning. "Make him sweat a little?" "More than a little," I replied, my resolve growing stronger by the second. "He thinks he can just walk away from us? We'll show him how wrong he is." Just then my phone buzzed. A text from Lewis. "Can we talk? I want to explain everything." I showed Marianne the message, and we shared a knowing look. "What are you going to do?" she asked. I took a deep breath, feeling a strange mix of pain and power. "I'm going to meet him, but I'm not going alone." Marianne squeezed my hand. "I'll be right there with you, dear." As we prepared to face Lewis, I felt a shift inside me. The woman I was yesterday, trusting, naive, content to let others make decisions for her, was gone. In her place was someone stronger, someone who wouldn't be pushed aside or forgotten. "Let's go," I said to Marianne, my voice steady and determined. "It's time Lewis learns that actions have consequences." As we left the house, I clutched the unsigned divorce papers in my hand. They weren't just legal documents anymore. They were a weapon, a tool for justice. And I was ready to use them. Lewis had no idea what was coming. But soon, very soon, he'd realize that his carefully laid plans were about to crumble. And Marianne and I? We were just getting started. I sat at the kitchen table, my hands shaking as I dialed the number for Lewis's bank. Marianne stood beside me, her hand on my shoulder, offering silent support. "Hello, this is Alexandra Thompson. I need to make changes to our joint account," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. The bank representative asked for verification, and I rattled off Lewis's social security number and our account details. Marianne had found them in an old file, her memory surprisingly sharp when it came to uncovering Lewis's secrets. "What changes would you like to make, Mrs. Thompson?" I took a deep breath. "I need to redirect my husband's paycheck to a new account, in my name only." As I provided the new account details, I felt a rush of adrenaline. This was it, the point of no return. "All set, Mrs. Thompson. The changes will take effect immediately." I hung up, my heart racing. "It's done," I whispered to Marianne. She squeezed my shoulder. "You did the right thing, dear. He doesn't deserve another penny from you." Just then my phone buzzed, a text from Lewis. "We need to talk. I'm coming over." Panic surged through me. "He's on his way. What if he finds out what we've done?" Marianne's eyes hardened. "Let him come. It's time he faced the consequences of his actions." We waited in tense silence, the minutes ticking by agonizingly slow. When the doorbell finally rang, I jumped. Lewis burst in, his face a mask of desperation. Alexandra, please. I know I've made mistakes, but we can work this out. I stood my ground, Marianne by my side. Oh, there's nothing to work out, Louis. You made your choice. He ran a hand through his hair, agitated. I know, but I've realized what I'm giving up. You, Mom, our life together. I want to make it right. I laughed bitterly. Make it right? How? By abandoning your mistress and child? Louis flinched. It's complicated. Cynthia, she's not who I thought she was. And the baby. What about the baby, Louis? Marianne demanded. He looked away, shame written across his face. I'm not sure it's mine. The revelation hit me like a physical blow. All this pain, this betrayal, for a child that might not even be his? Get out, I whispered, my voice trembling with rage. Louis stepped forward, pleading. Alexandra, please. I need you. I love you. Something inside me snapped. Love? You don't know the meaning of the word. You were going to abandon us, Louis. Leave your mother to rot in a care home while you played happy families with your mistress. His eyes widened in shock. How did you? We found your letter. Marianne cut in, her voice cold. We know everything. Louis collapsed onto the couch, his head in his hands. I'm so sorry. I was confused, scared. I made a terrible mistake. I stood over him, years of pent-up anger and hurt pouring out. A mistake? A mistake is forgetting to buy milk. What you did was betray every vow you ever made to me, to your mother, to our family. He looked up, tears in his eyes. What can I do? Tell me how to fix this. I exchanged a glance with Marianne, seeing my own determination reflected in her eyes. There's nothing you can do, Louis. It's too late. Just then, Louis's phone buzzed. He checked it, his face paling. What have you done? I smiled, a cold, satisfied smile. I've taken control of our finances, Louis. No more sneaking around, no more secret accounts. He jumped up, panic in his eyes. You can't do that. I need that money. For what? Marianne snapped. Your other family? Louis's mouth opened and closed, no words coming out. He looked like a fish out of water, gasping for air. I stepped closer, my voice low and dangerous. This is just the beginning, Louis. You want it out? Fine. But we're doing this on my terms now. As Louis stumbled out of the house, shell-shocked and defeated, I turned to Marianne. We shared a look of grim satisfaction. The battle had begun, and for the first time I felt like I was winning. The doorbell rang, its chime echoing through the tense silence of the house. I exchanged a glance with Marianne, who nodded grimly. This was it. I opened the door to find Louis, disheveled and desperate. Alexandra, please? I need my paycheck. I can't access any of our accounts. Our accounts? I scoffed, stepping aside to let him in. You mean the accounts you were planning to drain before abandoning us? Louis stumbled into the living room, his eyes widening as he saw Marianne sitting there, a manila envelope in her lap. Mom? What's going on? Marianne's voice was cold. Sit down, Louis. We have some things to discuss. As he sank onto the couch, I stood beside Marianne, united in our resolve. I took the envelope from her and pulled out a document. Do you know what this is, Louis? I asked, my voice steady despite my racing heart. He squinted at the paper, confusion etched on his face. Is that a DNA test? That's right, I said. A DNA test for your supposed child with Cynthia. Louis paled. Why would you? Because we deserve the truth, Marianne cut in. All of it. I handed Louis the test results. We haven't opened it yet. We wanted you here for this moment. His hands shook as he took the envelope. I don't understand. Why does this matter now? It matters, I said, my voice rising, because you were ready to throw away our entire life together for this child, a child you weren't even sure was yours. Louis's phone buzzed incessantly as he stared at the unopened results. Finally, he answered. Cynthia, what's wrong? We could hear panicked shouting from the other end. Louis's face drained of color as he listened. What do you mean you lied? He whispered. The baby. It's not mine. The room fell silent as the truth sank in. Cynthia's voice continued to screech through the phone, but Louis seemed frozen in place. I snatched the phone from his hand. Cynthia? This is Alexandra, Louis's wife. I think it's time we had a chat. What followed was a torrent of confessions and apologies. Cynthia, it turned out, had known all along that the baby wasn't Louis's. She'd been hoping to trap him, to secure a comfortable future for herself and her child. As I hung up, Louis buried his face in his hands. I've ruined everything, he moaned. And for what? A lie? Marianne's voice was surprisingly gentle. You ruined it long before this, Louis, the moment you decided to betray your vows, your family. I felt a strange mix of emotions swirling inside me: anger, relief, vindication. But most of all, I felt free. "What happens now?" Lewis asked, looking utterly defeated. I took a deep breath. "Now you leave. For good this time." "But where will I go?" he pleaded. "You've taken everything." "No, Lewis," I said firmly. "You gave everything away. There's a difference." As Lewis stumbled to his feet, I felt a sudden pang of pity. This man, who I'd loved for so long, now seemed small and pathetic. "Wait," I said, surprising even myself. I went to the desk and pulled out an envelope, stuffing it with cash from our emergency fund. "Take this. It's enough for a month. After that, you're on your own." Lewis took the envelope, tears in his eyes. "I'm so sorry, Alexandra, for everything." As he walked out the door, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. I turned to Marianne, who was watching me with a mix of pride and concern. "Are you all right, dear?" she asked. I nodded, a small smile forming on my lips. "You know what? I think I am. For the first time in a long time, I feel free." Marianne took my hand, her eyes twinkling. "Well then, my dear, what shall we do with our newfound freedom?" As we sat there, planning our future, I realized that this wasn't an ending at all. It was a beginning, and I was ready for whatever came next. The morning sun streamed through the windows as I stood in my living room, surrounded by boxes. Marianne sat in her favorite armchair, a wistful smile on her face. "Are you sure about this, Alexandra?" she asked, her voice tinged with concern. I nodded, feeling a strange mix of sadness and excitement. "It's time, Marianne. This house, it holds too many memories." The doorbell rang, startling us both. I opened it to find Lewis standing there, looking haggard and defeated. "Alexandra, please," he begged. "Can we talk? One last time?" I hesitated, then stepped aside to let him in. As he entered, his eyes widened at the sight of the packed boxes. You're really leaving?" he asked, his voice breaking. "We both are," I replied, gesturing to Marianne. "It's time for a fresh start." Lewis sank onto the couch, his head in his hands. "I've lost everything," he mumbled. "My family, my home, my dignity." I felt a flicker of pity, quickly extinguished by the memory of his betrayal. "You made your choices, Lewis. Now we're making ours." Marianne spoke up, her voice surprisingly strong. "Lewis, you're my son, and I'll always love you. But what you did, it's unforgivable." He looked up, tears in his eyes. "Mom, I'm so sorry. I never meant to hurt you, either of you." I took a deep breath, steeling myself for what I needed to say. "Lewis, I've decided to file for alimony, and I'm becoming Marianne's legal guardian." His face crumpled. But how will I survive?" I pulled out an envelope, similar to the one I'd given him before. "This is the last one, Lewis. After this, you're on your own." As he took the envelope, his hand brushed mine. For a moment, I remembered the man I'd fallen in love with, the life we'd planned together. But that man was gone, replaced by a stranger I barely recognized. "What about forgiveness?" he whispered. "Don't I deserve a second chance?" Marianne stood up, her eyes flashing with a fire I hadn't seen in years. "Forgiveness is earned, Lewis. It's not given freely, especially not after what you've done." I nodded, feeling a surge of gratitude for this remarkable woman who'd become more than just my mother-in-law. "Marianne's right. We might forgive you someday, Lewis, but not today." As Lewis stumbled towards the door, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. This was it, the final page of a chapter in my life I never thought I'd have to write. "Goodbye, Lewis," I said softly as he stepped outside. He turned, his eyes filled with regret. "I really did love you, Alexandra. Both of you." "I know," I replied, "but sometimes love isn't enough." As the door closed behind him, I turned to Marianne. She held out her arms, and I fell into them, finally allowing myself to cry. "It's over," I sobbed. "It's really over." Marianne stroked my hair, her voice soothing. "No, my dear, it's just beginning." We stood there for a long moment, two women who'd been through hell and come out stronger on the other side. As my tears subsided, I felt a new emotion rising within me, hope. "So," Marianne said, a mischievous glint in her eye, "where to next?" I laughed, surprised by how good it felt. "I was thinking, maybe that little cottage by the sea we always talked about?" Marianne's face lit up. "Oh, Alexandra, that sounds perfect." As we finished packing, I caught sight of our reflection in the mirror. Gone was the timid, trusting woman I'd been. In her place stood someone stronger, wiser, and ready to face whatever life threw her way. The movers arrived, and as we watched our old life being packed away, I felt a sense of peace settle over me. This wasn't an ending, it was a new beginning, and for the first time in a long time, I was excited about the future. Ready? I asked Marianne, holding out my hand. She took it, squeezing it tightly. Ready. As we stepped out of the house for the last time, I realized that sometimes the family you choose is stronger than the one you're born into. Marianne and I, we were more than just in-laws now. We were survivors, confidantes, and above all, family. The future stretched out before us, full of possibilities, and I was ready to embrace every single one of them. I smoothed my skirt and took a deep breath before pushing open the heavy oak door to Jake's new office. The plaque reading, Jake Hartley, President, still gleamed, barely a week old. My husband glanced up from his computer, his brow furrowed. Nora, I'm swamped. What is it? I plastered on a smile. The Henderson account files are ready for your review, and the staff meeting starts in 10 minutes. Jake waved his hand dismissively. Cancel it. I've got more important things to deal with. But Jake, everyone's been preparing their presentations all week. They're expecting you to... I said cancel it, he snapped, his eyes never leaving the screen. That's an order, not a request. I bit my tongue, nodding curtly before retreating. As I closed the door, I caught a glimpse of Jake's reflection in the window. He was already engrossed in his work again, oblivious to the sting of his words. In the hallway, I leaned against the wall, willing my racing heart to slow. This wasn't the Jake I'd married. The man I loved had been passionate about architecture, dedicated to his team. Now it seemed the fancy title had gone straight to his head. Everything okay, Nora? I looked up to see Kenneth, Jake's father, watching me with concern. Even in retirement, he still came by the office regularly. I straightened, forcing a smile. Of course, just a busy morning. How are you, Kenneth? He studied me for a moment. I'm fine, but you don't look it. What's my son done now? I hesitated, torn between loyalty and frustration. It's nothing, really. Jake's just adjusting to his new role. Kenneth's eyes narrowed. Adjusting or letting it go to his head? Before I could respond, Jake's voice boomed from his office. Nora, where are those files? I grabbed the folder from my desk, shooting Kenneth an apologetic look. Duty calls. As I re-entered Jake's office, he barely glanced up. Finally, leave them there and close the door on your way out. Jake, I said, steeling myself, the team really needs you at this meeting. They've worked hard on... He slammed his hand on the desk. For God's sake, Nora, I'm the president now. I decide what's important, not you or anyone else. Got it? I flinched, shocked by his outburst. I'm just trying to help, Jake. This company means everything to your father, and I promised him I'd... My father isn't in charge anymore, Jake interrupted, his voice cold. I am, and if you can't handle that, maybe you shouldn't be here either. The words hit me like a slap. I stared at him, searching for any trace of the man I'd fallen in love with, but all I saw was a stranger, drunk on power and ego. Fine, I said quietly. I'll cancel the meeting. As I turned to leave, Jake's phone buzzed. He answered it, his tone instantly shifting to smooth charm. Bella, darling. Yes, I can't wait for our business lunch. See you soon. My hand froze on the doorknob. Bella? The name was unfamiliar, but the way Jake said it sent a chill down my spine. I glanced back, catching a glimpse of a sly smile on his face before he noticed me watching. What? He snapped. Don't you have work to do? I nodded mutely and fled the office, my mind reeling. Outside, the disappointed faces of our team greeted me as I announced the canceled meeting, but their frustration paled in comparison to the dread building in my stomach. Who was Bella? And what kind of business lunch made my husband smile like that? As I sank into my chair, I realized with growing certainty that my marriage and this company were about to face a storm that none of us were prepared for. The next morning, I arrived at the office early, determined to salvage what I could of yesterday's disaster. As I walked through the bullpen, the tension was palpable. Whispers ceased as I passed, replaced by forced smiles and awkward nods. Morning, Nora, Sarah, our lead designer, called out. Any word on rescheduling the meeting? I hesitated, torn between honesty and diplomacy. I'm working on it, Sarah. Jake's adjusting to his new role. Sarah's eyebrows shot up. Adjusting? Is that what we're calling it now? Before I could respond, Jake's booming voice echoed through the office. Nora, my office now! I hurried to Jake's door, bracing myself. He was pacing, agitation radiating off him in waves. What the hell is this? He thrust a stack of papers at me, I scanned the top sheet, my heart sinking. It was a formal complaint from the design team, citing Jake's absence from crucial meetings and delays in project approvals. Jake, they're just frustrated. If we could set up a meeting to address their concerns. Their concerns, he scoffed. I'm running a business here, not a daycare. If they can't handle the pressure, they can leave. But Jake, these are your father's most trusted employees. They've been with the company for years. His eyes flashed dangerously. My father isn't in charge anymore. I am, and I won't have my authority questioned by a bunch of whiny designers. I took a deep breath, steeling myself. Jake, please, this isn't like you. What's really going on? For a moment, I saw a flicker of the old Jake, vulnerable, uncertain, but it vanished as quickly as it appeared. Nothing's going on, he snapped. Just do your job and keep them in line. That's what I'm paying you for, isn't it? The words stung more than he knew. I wasn't just an employee. I was his wife, his partner, or at least I thought I was. As I turned to leave, Jake's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, a sly smile spreading across his face. I'm heading out for lunch. Hold my calls. But Jake, we have the client meeting at 1. Reschedule it, he said, already halfway out the door. I watched him go, a knot forming in my stomach. This wasn't just about work anymore. Something was very, very wrong. Back at my desk, I buried myself in damage control, placating angry clients, smoothing ruffled feathers among the staff. By mid-afternoon, I was exhausted and on edge. A gentle knock on my cubicle startled me. I looked up to see Kenneth, concern etched on his face. Nora, dear, got a minute? I nodded, grateful for the interruption. Kenneth settled into the chair across from me, his eyes kind but searching. I've been hearing things, he said softly, about Jake, about how he's running the company. I swallowed hard, unsure how to respond. Kenneth had entrusted his life's work to his son. How could I tell him it was all falling apart? Kenneth, He held up a hand, silencing me. You don't have to protect him, Nora. Not from me. I've known something was off for a while now. I hoped he'd grow into the role. Tears pricked at my eyes. I don't know what to do, I whispered. He won't listen to me. He's pushing everyone away. Kenneth reached across the desk, squeezing my hand. We'll figure this out, Nora. Together. This company, this family, it means everything to me. I won't let Jake destroy it. Just then, Jake's voice boomed through the office once more. Where the hell is everyone? Don't we have work to do? Kenneth and I exchanged a look. The storm was far from over. As I stood to face whatever crisis Jake had conjured up now, Kenneth's words echoed in my mind. Together. For the first time in weeks, I felt a glimmer of hope. But as I rounded the corner and saw Jake standing there, his tie askew and a hint of lipstick on his collar, that hope flickered and died. The man I loved was slipping away, and I was powerless to stop it. I trudged up the driveway, exhausted from another day of damage control at the office. All I wanted was a hot bath and a glass of wine. But as I reached for my keys, the front door swung open. A stunning blonde stepped out, her lipstick slightly smudged and her blouse hastily buttoned. She froze when she saw me, her eyes widening in recognition. Oh, you must be Nora, she purred, recovering quickly. I'm Bella, Jake's consultant. My world tilted on its axis. Bella, the name from Jake's phone call, the lipstick on his collar, it all clicked into place with sickening clarity. Consultant? I managed, my voice barely above a whisper. Bella's lips curved into a predatory smile. Oh yes, Jake and I have been working very closely together. He's quite the visionary, you know. Before I could respond, Jake appeared in the doorway, his face pale. Nora, you're home early. I stared at him, searching for any trace of guilt or remorse, but all I saw was panic and calculation. Bella was just leaving, he said quickly, ushering her towards her car. They exchanged a loaded glance before she drove away, leaving me alone with my husband, a man I suddenly felt I didn't know at all. I brushed past Jake into the house, my mind reeling. He followed, his excuses already flowing. Nora, it's not what you think. Bella's just helping with some new projects. We were brainstorming ideas for... I whirled to face him. Don't you dare lie to me, Jake. Not now. He faltered, the facade cracking. I didn't mean for this to happen. It just did. It just happened? I echoed, my voice rising. Like you just happened to neglect your responsibilities at work? Like you just happened to treat your employees, our friends, like dirt? Jake's expression hardened. You don't understand the pressure I'm under. Dad left me with impossible shoes to fill. I'm doing the best I can. By having an affair? By running the company into the ground? I'm not. He stopped, frustration etched on his face. Look, things got complicated, but I can fix this. We can fix this. I laughed bitterly. We? There is no we anymore, Jake. You made sure of that. As the words left my mouth, I realized their truth. Whatever we had, our marriage, our partnership, it was gone. Shattered by Jake's betrayal and my own blind loyalty. Jake's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, his expression conflicted. It's Bella, isn't it? I said quietly. He didn't deny it. Nora, please, let me explain. But I was done listening, done making excuses for him. I grabbed my keys and headed for the door. Where are you going? Jake called after me. Away from you, I shot back. I need to think. As I drove through the darkening streets, tears blurred my vision. How had we come to this? The man I loved, the life we'd built, it was all crumbling around me. My phone rang. Kenneth's name flashed on the screen. I hesitated, then answered. Nora? Are you all right? You left the office in such a hurry? His concern broke something inside me. The dam burst, and I found myself pouring out everything. Jake's affair, the state of the company, my own shattered heart. Kenneth listened in silence. When I finished, he spoke softly. Oh, Nora, I'm so sorry. This is all my fault. I never should have put so much pressure on Jake. It's not your fault, I insisted. Jake made his choices. Perhaps, Kenneth sighed, but now we need to make ours. Come to my house, we'll figure this out together. As I turned towards Kenneth's neighborhood, a strange calm settled over me. The worst had happened. Jake's betrayal was out in the open. But I wasn't alone. And for the first time in months, I felt a flicker of strength returning. Whatever came next, I would face it head on. No more excuses. No more blind loyalty. It was time to fight for myself and for the company that had become my second home. I stepped into the office, my head held high despite the whispers and sidelong glances. After my conversation with Kenneth last night, I was determined to face whatever came my way. But nothing could have prepared me for what I saw when I rounded the corner. There, in the middle of the bullpen, stood Jake with his arm around Bella's waist. She was dressed in a pencil skirt and blouse that wouldn't have looked out of place on me just a few months ago. Everyone, I'd like you to meet Bella. Rat Jake announced, his voice carrying across the stunned silence. She'll be joining our team as a special consultant. My heart pounded in my ears as I locked eyes with Jake. His gaze was challenging, daring me to make a scene. Bella smirked, clearly relishing her new position in the company and in my husband's arms. Sarah, our lead designer, spoke up first. But Mr. Hartley, we already have a full team. And Nora. Nora will be assisting Bella in getting up to speed, Jake interrupted smoothly. Won't you, dear? All eyes turned to me. I could feel the mix of pity and curiosity radiating from my colleagues. Taking a deep breath, I plastered on a smile that felt more like a grimace. Of course, I managed. Welcome aboard, Bella. The next few hours were a blur of forced pleasantries and thinly veiled tension. I retreated to my office, trying to focus on work, but my mind kept replaying Jake's betrayal over and over. A knock on my door startled me from my thoughts. It was Kenneth, his face etched with concern. Nora, I just heard. Are you all right? I shook my head, fighting back tears. I don't know how much more of this I can take, Kenneth. It's like Jake's determined to hurt me in every way possible. Kenneth's expression hardened. This ends now. I'm calling an emergency board meeting. Jake's gone too far. Before I could respond, Jake burst into the office, his face flushed with anger. What the hell do you think you're doing, Dad? He snarled. This is my company now. You can't just waltz in and... Enough! Kenneth's voice boomed, silencing Jake. You've made a mockery of everything I built. It's time you faced the consequences. Jake's eyes narrowed. Consequences? I'm just getting started. In fact, he reached into his jacket and pulled out an envelope, tossing it onto my desk. Consider this my first official act as president. With trembling hands, I opened the envelope. Inside were divorce papers, already signed by Jake. You're firing me? I whispered, disbelief and hurt washing over me. Jake's laugh was cold. Firing you? Oh no, Nora. I'm setting you free. From this job, from this marriage, from everything. I stared at the papers, my world crumbling around me, all those years, all our dreams, reduced to a few sheets of legal jargon. Jake, please, Kenneth pleaded. Think about what you're doing. Nora's been the backbone of this company. Without her, Without her, we'll finally move forward, Jake snapped. Face it, Dad, your way of doing things is outdated. Bella and I have big plans for the future. As they argued, a strange calm settled over me. I looked at the divorce papers, then at Jake, this stranger wearing my husband's face. In that moment, I made a decision. I'll sign, I said quietly, cutting through their heated exchange. Both men turned to me, shocked. Jake recovered first, a triumphant smirk spreading across his face. I knew you'd see reason, Nora. It's for the best, really. I met his gaze steadily. You're right, Jake. It is for the best, but not for the reasons you think. With a steady hand, I signed the papers. As I did, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. Jake might have thrown away our marriage, but I was done being a victim. I quit, I announced, standing up. Effective immediately, Jake's smirk faltered. What? You can't just... I can, and I am, I interrupted. Good luck running this company without me, Jake. You're gonna need it. As I walked out of the office, head held high, I heard Kenneth's voice behind me. Nora, wait. I paused, turning back. Kenneth's eyes were filled with a mixture of pride and determination. I have a proposition for you, he said. One that might just save this company and give you the fresh start you deserve. For the first time in months, I felt a spark of hope. Whatever came next, I was ready to face it, on my own terms. I sat across from Kenneth in his cozy home office, my hands wrapped around a steaming mug of tea. The events of the past few days swirled in my mind like a tempest. Nora, Kenneth began, his voice gentle but firm, I want you to come work for my nonprofit architectural trust. We need someone with your skills and integrity. I blinked, surprised. But Kenneth, what about the company? Jake made his choice, Kenneth interrupted, a hint of sadness in his eyes. Now it's time for you to make yours. As I considered his offer, my phone buzzed. A text from Sarah. SOS. Everything's falling apart here. Jake and Bella are running the place into the ground. We need you, Nora. My heart clenched. Despite everything, I still cared about the company and the people I'd worked with for years. I need some time to think, I told Kenneth. He nodded, understanding. Of course, but don't take too long. We both know Jake won't waste any time destroying what we've built. The next morning, I steeled myself and walked into the office one last time to clear out my desk. The atmosphere was tense, with whispered conversations stopping abruptly as I passed. As I packed my things, Sarah appeared at my door, her face drawn with worry. Nora, thank God you're here. It's a disaster. Jake's canceled 3 major projects, and Bella's been reassigning teams without any regard for their expertise. Clients are furious, and... I don't work here anymore, Sarah. I cut in, my voice tight. There's nothing I can do. Sarah's eyes widened. You're leaving? But what about us? What about the company? Before I could respond, Jake's voice boomed from the hallway. Nora, what are you doing here? He stormed into my office, Bella trailing behind him like a smug shadow. I'm just collecting my things, I said calmly, refusing to be intimidated. Jake's eyes narrowed. Good. The sooner you're gone, the better. Bella's more than capable of handling your responsibilities. I couldn't help but laugh. Is she? Is that why clients are threatening to pull out? Why the staff is in chaos? Bella stepped forward, her perfectly manicured nails digging into Jake's arm. I'll have you know I'm doing an excellent job. Jake thinks I'm a natural. I'm sure he does, I replied coolly, but running a successful architectural firm takes more than just being natural. Jake's face flushed with anger. That's enough. Get out, Nora. You're no longer welcome here. As I picked up my box of belongings, a commotion erupted in the hallway. Kenneth strode in, flanked by 2 members of the board. What's going on here? Jake demanded. Kenneth's voice was steel. Emergency board meeting, son. Your recent decisions have put this company at risk, and we're here to discuss your future as president. Jake paled, his bravado crumbling. You can't do this. I'm in charge now. We'll see about that, one of the board members said grimly. As the group moved towards the conference room, Kenneth caught my eye. Nora, we could use your insight in this meeting, if you're willing. I hesitated, torn between my desire to wash my hands of this mess and my loyalty to the company I'd helped build. Jake sneered. She doesn't work here anymore, Dad. She has no say. Something in me snapped. I set down my box and straightened my shoulders. Actually, I think I will stay for this meeting. After all, I seem to be the only one who knows how this company really runs. Bella gasped. Jake sputtered, but Kenneth smiled proudly. As we filed into the conference room, I felt a surge of determination. This wasn't just about me anymore. It was about protecting the legacy Kenneth had built and the livelihoods of everyone who worked here. Whatever happened next, I was ready to fight. Not for Jake, not for our failed marriage, but for the company and people I believed in. It was time to show everyone, especially Jake, exactly what I was capable of. The boardroom crackled with tension as I laid out the stark reality of the company's situation. Spreadsheets and reports covered the table, each one a damning indictment of Jake's leadership. In the past month alone, we've lost 3 major clients, I explained, my voice steady despite the hammering of my heart. Our reputation in the industry is in freefall, and staff morale is at an all-time low. Jake's face was a mask of fury and disbelief. This is ridiculous. We're doing fine. Bella and I have been working on new strategies that will... That will what, Jake? Kenneth interrupted, his voice sharp. Drive us further into the ground? The numbers don't lie. I watched as the board members exchanged worried glances. This was it, the moment that would determine the fate of the company we'd all worked so hard to build. Bella, who had insisted on attending, piped up. But Jake's been working so hard. He's been at the office late every night, coming up with innovative ideas. I couldn't help but scoff. Is that what you call it? Because from where I'm standing, all I see is a company in crisis and a president more concerned with his personal life than his professional responsibilities. Jake's eyes flashed dangerously. You don't know what you're talking about, Nora. You're just bitter because I moved on. Moved on? I laughed credulously. You destroyed our marriage and now you're destroying this company. That's not moving on, Jake. That's burning everything to the ground. The oldest board member, Mr. Hawkins, cleared his throat. I think we've heard enough. It's clear that drastic action needs to be taken to save this company. Jake paled. What are you saying? I'm saying, Mr. Hawkins continued, that we need to consider new leadership, effective immediately. The room erupted into chaos. Jake shouted accusations, Bella cried, and the board members argued amongst themselves. Through it all, I sat silently, a strange calm settling over me. Suddenly, Jake turned to me, his eyes wild. Nora, please, you have to help me. Tell them I can fix this. Tell them we can work together again, like before. I stared at him, this man who had once been my partner in every sense of the word. For a moment, I saw a flicker of the Jake I used to know, scared, vulnerable, pleading for help. But then, Bella's hand snaked possessively around his arm, and reality came crashing back. I'm sorry, Jake, I said softly, but you made your choice. Now you have to live with the consequences. Kenneth stood, his voice cutting through the din. I move that we vote on Jake's continued leadership of this company. All in favor of removing Jake from his position as president? Raise your hand. Time seemed to slow as hands began to rise. 1, 2, 3, a clear majority. Jake's face crumpled as the reality of what was happening sank in. This isn't fair, Bella shrieked. You can't do this to us. But it was done. Jake was out, and the company I loved was hanging by a thread. As the meeting adjourned, Kenneth pulled me aside. Nora, we need you. The company needs you. Will you come back and help us rebuild? I hesitated, torn between my desire to help and my need for a fresh start. Before I could answer, Jake approached, his eyes red-rimmed and desperate. Nora, please, he begged. Don't let them do this. You know me better than anyone. You know I can make this right if you just give me another chance. I looked from Jake to Kenneth, feeling the weight of their expectations pressing down on me. The future of the company and my own future hung in the balance. In that moment, I realized that this wasn't just about saving a business. It was about standing up for myself, for my worth, for everything I'd worked so hard to achieve. Taking a deep breath, I made my decision. Whatever came next, I knew it would change everything. I stood at the podium, facing a sea of expectant faces. The company-wide meeting had been called to address the recent upheaval, and as the newly appointed interim CEO, it fell to me to chart our course forward. As many of you know, I began, my voice steady despite my racing heart. The past few weeks have been tumultuous for our company, but today marks a new beginning. From the corner of my eye, I saw Jake slip into the back of the room, his face haggard. Bella was nowhere to be seen. We've lost clients, yes, we've faced setbacks, but the heart of this company, the talent, dedication, and vision that each of you brings to your work, that remains unchanged. A murmur of approval rippled through the crowd. I pressed on, outlining our plan to rebuild client trust and stabilize our finances. As I spoke, I could see hope rekindling in the eyes of my colleagues. Suddenly, Jake's voice cut through the air. "This is all lies." Heads whipped around as he stormed down the aisle. "Nora's trying to steal my company. She orchestrated this whole thing to push me out." Gasps and whispers filled the room. I gripped the podium, willing myself to stay calm. "Jake, this isn't the time or place. It's exactly the time," he shouted, his face flushed with anger. "You turned my own father against me. You manipulated the board. That's enough." Kenneth's voice boomed from the side of the stage. He strode forward, placing a supportive hand on my shoulder. "Jake, you did this to yourself. Your actions, your decisions, they're what brought us to this point." Jake's eyes darted wildly between Kenneth and me. "Dad, please, you can't let her do this. It's our family legacy." Kenneth's expression softened slightly. "Son, the legacy isn't just about the name on the building. It's about integrity, hard work, and doing right by our employees and clients. Nora understands that. It's time you did too." A tense silence fell over the room. I could feel everyone's eyes on us, waiting to see how this family drama would play out. Jake's shoulders sagged, the fight seeming to drain out of him. "So that's it? I'm just out?" I stepped away from the podium, approaching Jake cautiously. "It doesn't have to be the end, Jake. There's still a place for you here if you're willing to earn it back." For a moment, I saw a flicker of the man I'd once loved, vulnerable, uncertain. But then his expression hardened. "I don't need your pity, Nora, or yours, Dad. I'll start my own firm. You'll see. I'll build something even bigger, even better." With that, he turned on his heel and stormed out, leaving a stunned silence in his wake. I returned to the podium, acutely aware of the hundreds of eyes upon me. This was the moment that would define not just my leadership, but the future of the company. I know that was difficult to witness, I began, my voice slightly shaky, but it's a perfect example of why we're here today. This company isn't about one person's ego or ambition. It's about all of us, working together to create something extraordinary. I paused, looking out at the faces of my colleagues, some skeptical, some hopeful, all waiting for direction. I can't promise it will be easy. We have a long road ahead of us, but I can promise you this. Every decision I make will be in the best interest of this company and the people who make it great. That's you, all of you. As I continued outlining our path forward, I felt a weight lifting from my shoulders. The worst was over. Jake was gone. His last-ditch effort to undermine me had failed, and I finally had the chance to lead on my own terms. But as I caught Kenneth's eye, I saw a flicker of worry there, and I realized that while one chapter of this saga might be closing, another was just beginning. The real test of my leadership and our company's resilience was still to come. 6 months had passed since that fateful company meeting, and I stood at the window of my new office, gazing out at the city skyline. The view was different now, not just because I was in Kenneth's nonprofit trust building, but because I saw the world through new eyes. A knock at the door pulled me from my reverie. "Come in," I called. Sarah entered, her face beaming. "Nora, you won't believe this. The Henderson Project, we got it!" I couldn't help but grin. The Henderson Project was exactly the kind of socially responsible, innovative design work I'd always dreamed of doing. "That's fantastic, Sarah. The team must be thrilled." "They are," she nodded. "And there's something else you should know." I raised an eyebrow, waiting. Sarah took a deep breath. "Jake's company, it's officially bankrupt. They filed for Chapter 11 this morning. The news hit me like a physical blow. Despite everything, a part of me had hoped Jake would find his way." "And Jake?" I asked quietly. "No one's seen him in days, but Bella—" Sarah hesitated. "She showed up here earlier, looking for a job. Said Jake left her high and dry." I sank into my chair, processing this information. The Jake I'd known, the man I'd loved and built a life with, was truly gone. In his place was a cautionary tale, a reminder of how quickly success could turn to ashes when built on the wrong foundation. As if summoned by my thoughts, Kenneth appeared in the doorway. "I heard the news," he said softly. "How are you holding up?" I managed a small smile. I'm okay, it's just a lot to take in. Kenneth nodded, his eyes filled with a mixture of sadness and pride. You've done remarkable things here, Nora. This new wing of the trust, the projects you're taking on, you're changing lives. We're changing lives, I corrected him. I couldn't have done any of this without your support. He waved away my gratitude. You did this, Nora. You took a terrible situation and turned it into something beautiful. That's a rare gift. As Kenneth and Sarah left, I found myself alone with my thoughts once more. I thought about Jake, about the life we'd shared and the dreams we'd had. I thought about Bella and how her pursuit of status and wealth had left her with nothing. But mostly, I thought about myself. The woman I'd been when this all started, desperate to please, afraid to stand up for herself, seemed like a stranger now. My phone buzzed, startling me. A text from an unknown number. It's Jake. Can we talk? My heart raced as I stared at the screen. 6 months ago, I would have jumped at the chance. Now, I took a deep breath and typed my response. I'm sorry, Jake, but I've moved on. I hope you find peace. As I hit send, I felt the last threads of my old life fall away. The future stretched out before me, full of possibility and promise. A knock at my door pulled me from my thoughts. It was my team, eager to start brainstorming for the Henderson project. Come on in, I said, smiling. Let's create something amazing. As we gathered around the conference table, ideas flowing freely, I felt a surge of gratitude. This was where I belonged, not defined by my relationship to Jake or anyone else, but standing on my own 2 feet, surrounded by people who respected and valued me for who I was. The journey had been painful, but it had led me here, to a place of strength, purpose, and self-discovery. And as I looked around at the bright, eager faces of my team, I knew that the best was yet to come. All right, I said, picking up a marker. Let's reimagine the future, together. And as we began to sketch out our vision, I realized that this moment, this work, this life I'd built from the ashes of my old one, this was my true happily ever after. Not a fairy tale ending, but something far more valuable. A new beginning, crafted by my own hands and heart. The road ahead wouldn't always be easy, but I was ready for whatever challenges it might bring. Because now I knew the truth. My worth wasn't determined by anyone else's actions or opinions. It came from within, from the strength and resilience I'd discovered in myself. And that, I realized, was the greatest victory of all. The chime of a text message shattered the illusion of our perfect family portrait. I glanced at Peter, his face illuminated by the glow of his phone screen, a fleeting smile playing on his lips. My husband of 15 years, the father of our son, and the man I thought I knew better than anyone else in the world. Everything okay, honey? I asked, trying to keep my voice light. Peter's head snapped up, his eyes meeting mine for a brief second, before darting away. Just work stuff, Lily. Nothing to worry about. I nodded, turning my attention back to our son, Jack, who was busy regaling his cousins with tales of his latest soccer triumph. The annual family gathering buzzed around us, a cacophony of laughter and chatter that usually filled me with warmth. But now, an icy tendril of doubt had wormed its way into my heart. Mom, did you see that goal I scored? Jack's excited voice cut through my thoughts. I plastered on a smile. Of course, sweetie, you were amazing out there. As Jack launched into another animated description, I couldn't help but steal glances at Peter. He was engrossed in his phone again, thumbs flying across the screen. Who was he texting with such urgency at a family event? Earth to Lily. My sister Sarah's voice startled me. You okay? You look like you've seen a ghost. I forced a laugh. Just tired, I guess. It's been a long week. Sarah raised an eyebrow. Uh-huh. And I'm the Queen of England. Spill it, sis. Before I could respond, Peter stood up abruptly. I need to make a quick call. Work emergency. As he walked away, his phone slipped from his pocket, landing face up on the grass. The screen lit up with a new message, and my heart stopped. Can't wait to see you tomorrow, handsome. Missing you already. Gina. I snatched up the phone, my hands trembling. Who the hell was Gina? Lily? Sarah's concerned voice seemed to come from far away. What's wrong? I shook my head, unable to form words. The perfect picture of our life together was crumbling before my eyes, and I didn't know how to stop it. Peter returned, his brow furrowing when he saw his phone in my hand. Everything okay, hon? I met his gaze, searching for any sign of guilt or remorse, but all I saw was confusion and a hint of annoyance. Who's Gina? The words tumbled out before I could stop them. Peter's face paled for a split second before he recovered. "Oh, she's a new client at work. We have a big presentation tomorrow." "Really?" I held up the phone, my voice trembling, because this message doesn't sound very professional to me. The air around us seemed to freeze. I was vaguely aware of Sarah ushering Jack and the other kids away, giving us some privacy. Peter's jaw clenched. "Lily, can we not do this here? Let's talk about this at home." I laughed bitterly. "Talk about what, Peter? How you're cheating on me? How our entire marriage is a lie?" "Keep your voice down," he hissed, glancing around nervously. "You're making a scene." "I'm making a scene?" I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "You're the one who's been sneaking around behind my back." Peter grabbed my arm, pulling me away from the curious glances of our family members. "Lily, please. I can explain everything. Just not here. Not now." I yanked my arm free, tears stinging my eyes. "Fine. But don't think for a second that this conversation is over." As I walked away, my mind reeling from the shock of discovery, I caught sight of Jack watching us with wide, worried eyes. In that moment, I knew that whatever happened next, I had to be strong. For him, for myself, and for the life I thought we had. The perfect picture was shattered, but I was determined to pick up the pieces and create something new, with or without Peter. The days following the family gathering blurred together in a haze of suspicion and doubt. I found myself scrutinizing Peter's every move, searching for clues I might have missed before. But he carried on as if nothing had changed, his easy smile and casual affection a stark contrast to the turmoil churning inside me. One morning, as I packed Jack's lunch for school, Peter breezed into the kitchen, adjusting his tie. "I might be late tonight," he said, grabbing a piece of toast. "Big presentation with a new client." I froze, the peanut butter knife hovering over the bread. "Is it Gina?" The name felt like poison on my tongue. Peter's eyes flickered with something, guilt, annoyance, before he laughed it off. "No, not Gina. Different client. Why do you ask?" I shrugged, trying to keep my voice steady. "Just curious." He kissed my cheek, the familiar scent of his cologne now tinged with deceit. "Don't wait up, okay?" As soon as the front door closed behind him, I slumped against the counter, fighting back tears. How had we come to this? When had the man I loved become a stranger? "Mom?" Jack's voice startled me. "Are you okay?" I plastered on a smile, determined not to let my son see my pain. "Of course, sweetie. Just tired. Ready for school?" As we drove to Jack's school, I tried to focus on his chatter about his upcoming science project, but my mind kept drifting back to Peter and his secrets. "Oh, Mom!" Jack exclaimed suddenly. "I forgot to tell you. Dad's work partner came over yesterday when you were at the grocery store." My hands tightened on the steering wheel. "Work partner?" Jack nodded enthusiastically. "Yeah, her name's Gina. She's really nice. She helped me with my math homework." The world tilted on its axis. Gina had been in our house? With my son? The betrayal cut deeper than I could have imagined. That's great, honey," I managed to choke out as we pulled up to the school. "Have a good day, okay?" As soon as Jack was out of sight, I let the tears fall. How dare Peter bring that woman into our home? How dare he involve our son in his deception? I spent the day in a fog, mechanically going through the motions of housework while my mind raced. By the time I heard Peter's key in the lock that night, I was seething with a mix of anger and hurt. "Hey, beautiful," he called out, his voice light and carefree. "Sorry I'm late. The presentation went great." I met him in the hallway, arms crossed. "I'm sure it did. Was Gina there?" Peter's smile faltered. "Lily, not this again. I told you she's just a colleague. A colleague who comes to our house when I'm not here," I shot back. "Who helps our son with his homework?" The color drained from Peter's face. "Jack told you about that?" "He did. What I want to know is why you didn't." Peter ran a hand through his hair, sighing heavily. "I didn't think it was a big deal. She was in the neighborhood, stopped by to drop off some files." "Stop lying to me," I exploded, years of trust crumbling in an instant. "I saw the message, Peter. I know there's something going on between you two." For a moment, silence hung heavy between us. Then Peter's shoulders sagged, defeat written across his features. "Lily, I don't know what to say. It's not what you think, but..." "But what?" I pressed, my heart pounding. "Tell me the truth, Peter. For once in your life, just be honest with me." He met my gaze, and in that moment, I saw a flicker of the man I'd fallen in love with all those years ago. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I never meant for any of this to happen." As the weight of his unspoken confession settled over us, I realized that our perfect life had been built on a foundation of sand. And now, as the tide of truth rushed in, everything we'd known was about to be washed away. The clock on the nightstand glowed an accusatory 2:37 a.m. as I lay wide awake, Peter's soft snores a mocking reminder of his apparent peace of mind. I couldn't take it anymore. I sat up abruptly, flicking on the bedside lamp. "Peter, wake up, we need to talk." He stirred, blinking in confusion. "Lily, what's wrong?" "What's wrong?" I laughed bitterly. "Everything's wrong, Peter, and we're going to hash this out right now." Fully awake now, Peter propped himself up against the headboard. "Okay, let's talk." I took a deep breath, steeling myself. "Are you having an affair with Gina?" "No." The denial came quickly, almost rehearsed. "I told you, she's just a colleague." "A colleague who sends you flirty messages? Who comes to our house when I'm not here?" Peter ran a hand through his hair, sighing heavily. "It's complicated." "Then uncomplicate it for me," I snapped. He was quiet for a long moment, and when he spoke, his voice was low. "I'm not having an affair, Lily. But I'd be lying if I said I wasn't attracted to Gina." The admission hit me like a physical blow. "And does she feel the same way?" Peter nodded slowly. "We've talked about it, but nothing's happened, I swear." "Nothing's happened?" I echoed incredulously. "You've been lying to me, sneaking around, bringing her into our home. How is that nothing?" "I know it looks bad," Peter pleaded, "but I never meant for any of this to happen. Gina and I, we just connected. In a way I haven't felt in a long time." His words cut deep, each one a knife to my heart. "And what about our connection, Peter? What about our marriage, our family?" "I love you, Lily. I love our life together, but lately it's felt, I don't know, stagnant." I recoiled as if he'd slapped me. "Stagnant? Is that how you see our life, our love?" Peter reached for my hand, but I pulled away. "That's not what I meant. It's just, Gina makes me feel alive again, excited about life, about work. And I don't?" My voice cracked. "Am I just the boring housewife now?" "No, of course not," Peter insisted. "You're an amazing mother, a wonderful wife. It's not about you, it's—" "Don't you dare say it's not about me," I interrupted, fury rising. "This affects me. It affects Jack. Your choices impact all of us." Peter fell silent, his face a mask of guilt and confusion. "So what now?" I asked, my anger giving way to exhaustion. "Where do we go from here?" He shrugged helplessly. "I don't know. I love you, Lily. I don't want to lose our family, but I can't deny my feelings for Gina either." In that moment, something inside me snapped. The last thread of hope I'd been clinging to disintegrated. "Well, you can't have both," I said, my voice eerily calm. "You need to make a choice, Peter, right now." He stared at me, panic flickering in his eyes. "Lily, please. Can't we talk about this more? Maybe see a counselor?" I shook my head, a strange sense of clarity washing over me. "No, Peter. I'm done talking. I'm done being your second choice, your safe option. I deserve better than that. Jack deserves better than that." "What are you saying?" Peter's voice was barely a whisper. "I'm saying that if you can't commit to our marriage, to our family 100%, then I'm out. No more lies, no more Gina, no more excuses." The silence that followed was deafening. I watched Peter's face, searching for any sign of the man I'd fallen in love with, the father of my child. But all I saw was a stranger, torn between his comfortable life and his exciting new prospect. In that moment, I knew. Whatever Peter's decision, our life as we knew it was over. It was time for me to reclaim my identity, to create a secure future for Jack and myself, with or without Peter. As the first light of dawn crept through the curtains, I made my own choice. It was time to start over. The business card felt heavy in my hand as I dialed the number. "Hawkins Investigations," a gruff voice answered. "Hello," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "I need your help." An hour later, I sat across from Mike Hawkins in a nondescript coffee shop far from our neighborhood. His weathered face remained impassive as I poured out my story. "So, Mrs. Thompson, you want evidence of your husband's affair?" he asked, scribbling in a small notebook. I nodded, swallowing hard. "I need to know the truth, for myself and for my son." Mike leaned back, studying me. "It won't be pretty, you know. Are you sure you're ready for what we might find?" Was I ready? No, but I had to do this. "I'm sure," I said firmly. Over the next week, I lived a double life. To Peter and Jack, I was the same old Lily, making breakfasts, helping with homework, smiling through dinner conversations that now felt like charades. But inside, I was a coiled spring, waiting for Mike's updates. The first photos arrived on a Tuesday. Peter and Gina, leaving a restaurant together, his hand on the small of her back. I stared at the images until they blurred, my tears falling onto the glossy paper. More evidence trickled in, text messages, credit card receipts for hotel rooms, a video of them kissing in a park. Each new piece of information was a dagger to my heart, but it also steeled my resolve. Then came the bombshell. Mike's voice was grim over the phone. "Mrs. Thompson, I think you should come to my office. There's something you need to see in person." My hands shook as I drove across town, my mind racing with possibilities. What could be worse than what I'd already seen? Mike's office was cluttered but cozy. He gestured for me to sit, then slid a manila folder across the desk. "I'm sorry," he said softly. With trembling fingers, I opened the folder. Inside was a sonogram image. My breath caught in my throat as I read the name at the top, Gina Carlson. "She's pregnant?" I whispered, the words tasting like ash in my mouth. Mike nodded solemnly. "About 10 weeks, according to the date on the image." The room spun around me. Peter wasn't just having an affair, he was starting a whole new family. Our life together, our dreams, our plans for the future. They all crumbled to dust in that moment. "Mrs. Thompson, Lily," Mike's voice cut through my spiraling thoughts. "I know this is a lot to process, but you need to think about your next steps. Legally, financially." I nodded numbly, my mind already racing ahead. I couldn't stay in that house, pretending everything was fine. I couldn't let Jack grow up in a home built on lies. "I need to leave," I said, surprising myself with the strength in my voice. "I need to take Jack and start over." Mike nodded approvingly. "That's a brave decision. I can recommend a good divorce attorney if you need one." As I drove home, my resolve hardened with each passing mile. The Lily who had given up her career to support Peter's, who had turned a blind eye to his late nights and suspicious texts, that Lily was gone. In her place was a woman ready to fight for herself and her son, a woman who deserved honesty, respect, and love. I pulled into our driveway, staring at the house that no longer felt like home. My hand reached for my phone, fingers hovering over my sister Sarah's number. She had always been my rock, my confidant. If anyone could help me through this, it was her. Taking a deep breath, I pressed call. As the phone rang, I steeled myself for the conversation ahead. It was time to set my plan in motion, time to reclaim my life and secure a future for Jack. A future free from Peter's betrayal and lies. The moment Sarah's voice came through the line, I felt a surge of strength. "Sarah," I said, my voice steady and determined, "I need your help. It's time for me to leave Peter." The suitcases stood like sentinels by the door, packed with the remnants of my shattered life. Peter's business trip couldn't have come at a better time. 3 days to pack up our lives, to disappear before he could sweet-talk me into staying. "Mom, why can't I tell Dad where we're going?" Jack asked, his young face creased with worry. I knelt beside him, my heart breaking. "Sweetie, remember what we talked about? Sometimes grown-ups need time apart to figure things out. We're going on a little adventure, just you and me." Jack nodded, but I could see the confusion in his eyes. I hated lying to him, but how could I explain that his father had betrayed us both? As I zipped up the last bag, my phone buzzed. Sarah's text read, "Everything's ready at my place. You sure about this?" I typed back a quick yes before turning to Jack. "Ready for our adventure, buddy?" We loaded the car in silence, each piece of luggage feeling heavier than the last. As I locked the front door, memories flooded through me. First date kisses on the porch, bringing Jack home from the hospital, countless family dinners and movie nights. How had it all gone so wrong? Back inside, I placed the letter I'd written to Peter on the kitchen counter. My hands shook as I read it one last time. "Peter, by the time you read this, Jack and I will be gone. I know about Gina. I know about the baby. I can't live with your lies anymore. I've initiated divorce proceedings. My lawyer will be in touch. Goodbye, Lily." Short, simple, devastating, just like our marriage had become. As I turned to leave, a framed photo on the mantel caught my eye, our wedding day. We looked so young, so in love, so full of hope for the future. Impulsively, I grabbed it, shoving it into my purse. A reminder of what we'd lost, or perhaps of the strength I'd need to find again. The drive to Sarah's was tense, Jack unusually quiet in the back seat. I kept glancing in the rearview mirror, half expecting to see Peter's car racing after us, but the roads remained clear, our escape undetected. Sarah was waiting on her porch as we pulled up, her face a mix of concern and determination. She hugged me fiercely as soon as I stepped out of the car. "You're doing the right thing, Lil," she whispered. "I'm so proud of you." As we unloaded the car, my phone rang. Peter's name flashed on the screen. I stared at it, my heart pounding. This was it, the moment of truth. "You should answer it," Sarah said gently. "Get it over with." Taking a deep breath, I swiped to accept the call. "Hello? Lily? Where are you?" Peter's voice was frantic. "I came home early to surprise you, but the house is empty. What's going on?" I closed my eyes, steeling myself. "I left, Peter. I know everything, about Gina, about the baby. It's over." "What? Lily? No, please, let me explain." "There's nothing to explain," I cut him off, surprising myself with the steel in my voice. "I won't be your second choice anymore. I deserve better than that, and so does Jack." "Jack? Where is he? Let me talk to him." Peter's voice rose, panic setting in. "No," I said firmly. "He's safe with me. My lawyer will be in touch about custody arrangements." "Lawyer? Lily, wait." I ended the call, my whole body shaking. Sarah wrapped an arm around me, leading me inside. Jack looked up from where he was arranging his toys in the guest room, his eyes wide with questions I wasn't ready to answer. As I sank onto the couch, the reality of what I'd done hit me like a tidal wave. I'd left my husband, I'd uprooted my son, I'd thrown our entire lives into chaos. But beneath the fear and uncertainty, a small spark of hope flickered to life. For the first time in years, I felt like I was taking control of my destiny. No more lies, no more pretending. This was my new dawn, and despite the pain, I was ready to embrace it. Sarah pressed a mug of tea into my hands. "What now?" she asked softly. I took a sip, letting the warmth spread through me. "Now," I said, my voice growing stronger, "we fight. For Jack, for our future, for the life we deserve." As the sun set on my old life, I felt a fierce determination rising within me. The road ahead would be hard, but I was ready to face it head on. This was just the beginning of my story of resilience, of rediscovery, of reclaiming the woman I used to be and becoming someone even stronger. The incessant buzzing of my phone jolted me awake. Squinting at the screen, I saw 15 missed calls from Peter. My heart raced as I realized he must have returned home to find us gone. "Lily?" Sarah's concerned voice came from the doorway. "He's been calling nonstop. Maybe you should." The phone erupted again, Peter's name flashing on the screen. With a deep breath, I answered. "Where the hell are you?" Peter's voice was a mixture of anger and panic. "And where's Jack?" "We're safe," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. "That's all you need to know right now." "Safe? What are you talking about? I come home to an empty house and a goddamn letter? You can't just take my son and disappear." His words ignited a fury within me. "Your son? The one you were ready to replace with Gina's baby?" Silence fell on the other end. When Peter spoke again, his voice was low, dangerous. "You don't know what you're talking about, Lily. Come home now and we can sort this out." "There's nothing to sort out," I said, my resolve strengthening. "I know everything, Peter. The affair, the pregnancy, all of it. It's over." "Over?" He laughed bitterly. "You think you can just walk away? I'll fight you on this, Lily. I'll take you to court. You'll what?" I interrupted, my voice rising. "Tell them how you betrayed your family, how you lied and cheated. Go ahead, Peter. I have all the evidence I need." Another pause. When he spoke again, his tone had changed. "Evidence? What are you talking about?" I felt a grim satisfaction. "Oh, I've been busy while you were playing house with Gina. Every hotel receipt, every text message, every photo. I have it all, so think carefully about your next move." "You're bluffing," Peter said, but I could hear the uncertainty in his voice. "Am I? Want to risk it?" I challenged. "I'm done being your doormat, Peter. I'm done pretending everything's fine while you destroy our family. It's time you face the consequences of your actions." "Consequences?" Peter's voice turned cold. "You want to talk about consequences? Fine, I'll see you in court, Lily. And when I'm done, you'll have nothing. No house, no money, and sure as hell no Jack." The threat sent a chill down my spine, but I refused to let him hear my fear. "Bring it on, Peter. I'm not afraid of you anymore." I ended the call, my hands shaking. Sarah rushed to my side, wrapping me in a hug. You did great, Lil. Don't let him intimidate you. But as the adrenaline faded, doubt crept in. Could Peter really take Jack away from me? The thought was unbearable. As if summoned by my fears, Jack appeared in the doorway, his eyes wide with worry. Mom, is everything okay? I heard yelling. I forced a smile, patting the bed beside me. As he curled up next to me, I stroked his hair, trying to find the right words. Jack, honey, there's something we need to talk about. Your dad and we're going through some grown-up problems right now. Are you getting divorced? He asked, his voice small. The question hit me like a punch to the gut. Yes, sweetheart. I'm so sorry, but yes, we are. Jack's face crumpled and he buried his head in my shoulder. As I held him, my own tears falling, I realized the true weight of what lay ahead. This wasn't just about me and Peter anymore. It was about Jack and the life he deserved. In that moment, I made a silent vow. No matter what Peter threw at me, no matter how ugly things got, I would fight. For Jack, for our future, for the chance to rebuild our lives free from lies and betrayal. As the sun rose on a new day, I felt a strange mix of fear and determination. The battle ahead would be brutal, but I was ready. Peter had underestimated me for the last time. Now he would learn just how far a mother would go to protect her child and reclaim her dignity. The war had begun, and I intended to win. My heart pounded as I stepped into the elevator of Peter's office building. The manila folder in my hands felt like it weighed a ton, filled with the evidence that would change everything. Sarah's words echoed in my mind. Are you sure about this, Lily? There's no going back. I was sure. It was time to unveil the truth. The conference room fell silent as I walked in, all eyes turning to me. Peter's face drained of color, his mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. Lily, what are you doing here? He stammered. I ignored him, addressing the room at large. I apologize for the interruption, but there's something you all need to know. Peter's boss, Mr. Jameson, frowned. Mrs. Thompson, we're in the middle of a very important meeting. I'm aware, I cut in, my voice steadier than I felt, but I promise, this is relevant to your company's future. I opened the folder, spreading out photos, receipts, and printed text messages across the conference table. Your star employee, my husband Peter Thompson, has been having an affair with his colleague, Gina Carlson. Gasps filled the room. Peter leapt to his feet. Lily, stop this right now. But I was unstoppable. Not only that, but he's been using company resources to fund their rendezvous, hotel rooms, expensive dinners, all on the company dime. Mr. Jameson's face turned thunderous. Is this true, Thompson? Peter's eyes darted around the room, panic setting in. It's not. I can explain. Just then the door burst open. Gina stood there, her face pale, one hand resting on her slightly swollen belly. I'm so sorry, she sobbed. I can't do this anymore. The room erupted into chaos. Peter lunged towards Gina, his face contorted with rage. You promised you wouldn't say anything. I stepped between them, my voice ringing out. That's enough, Peter. It's over. All of it. Mr. Jameson's voice cut through the din. Everyone out, except you, Thompson, and you, Mrs. Thompson. We need to talk. As the room cleared, leaving just the three of us, I felt a strange calm settle over me. This was it, the moment of truth. Mr. Jameson's eyes were cold as he addressed Peter. I've known you for years, Thompson. I trusted you, and this is how you repay that trust? Peter's shoulders slumped. Sir, I can explain. Save it, Mr. Jameson snapped. You're fired. Clear out your desk by the end of the day. As Peter stumbled out of the room, Mr. Jameson turned to me. Mrs. Thompson, I'm deeply sorry for what you've been through. Is there anything we can do to help? I took a deep breath. Actually, yes. I used to manage a restaurant before I gave it up to support Peter's career. I'd like to get back into the workforce, but I'll need references. Mr. Jameson nodded, a hint of admiration in his eyes. Consider it done. And Mrs. Thompson, you're a formidable woman. Your husband was a fool to underestimate you. As I left the building, my phone buzzed with a text from Peter. You've ruined everything. I hope you're happy. For a moment, doubt crept in. Had I gone too far? But then I remembered Jack's tearful face, the years of lies and betrayal, and my resolve hardened. I typed back, This isn't about happiness, Peter. It's about justice. For me, for Jack, and for the life you threw away. As I drove to pick up Jack from school, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. The road ahead would be tough, but for the first time in years I felt truly free. The war wasn't over. I knew Peter wouldn't go down without a fight. But I had found my strength, my voice, and I was ready for whatever came next. As I pulled up to the school, I saw Jack's face light up when he spotted me. In that moment, I knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, we would face them together. The future was uncertain, but it was ours to shape. The battle was won, but the journey was just beginning. The courtroom fell silent as the judge cleared his throat. My hands trembled in my lap, and I could feel Peter's icy glare from across the aisle. This was it, the moment that would define our futures. In the matter of Thompson versus Thompson, the judge began, I've reviewed all evidence and testimonies presented. This court finds in favor of Lily Thompson. A collective gasp rippled through the room. I sat, stunned, as the judge continued. Mrs. Thompson is granted primary custody of Jack Thompson, with Mr. Thompson allowed supervised visitation. Furthermore, given the evidence of Mr. Thompson's infidelity and misuse of company funds, Mrs. Thompson is entitled to a substantial portion of their shared assets. Relief washed over me like a tidal wave. We'd done it. Jack was safe, and we had a future. As we left the courthouse, Peter caught up to us, his face a mask of fury and defeat. This isn't over, Lily. You've ruined my life, and I'll make you pay. I stood tall, meeting his gaze. No, Peter, you ruined your own life. I'm just picking up the pieces for Jack and me. With that, I turned away, Jack's hand firmly in mine. As we walked towards our new life, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. Months passed, and slowly we found our rhythm. I threw myself back into restaurant management, rediscovering the passion I'd set aside for Peter's career. Jack thrived in his new school, making friends and excelling in his studies. One evening, as we sat on our small apartment's balcony, Jack looked up at me. Mom, are you happy now? The question caught me off guard. I thought about the struggles we'd faced, the tears we'd shed, but also the strength we'd found. You know what, sweetie? I am. Are you? He nodded, a small smile playing on his lips. Yeah, I miss Dad sometimes, but I like seeing you smile again. Tears pricked my eyes as I pulled him close. We'd been through hell, but we'd come out stronger. A week later, I received a call from Gina. My heart raced as I answered, unsure what to expect. Lily, her voice was soft, hesitant. I wanted to thank you. Thank me? I echoed, confused. For being strong enough to do what I couldn't, she explained. Peter, he's not the man either of us thought he was. I left him, the baby and I were starting over. As I hung up, I felt a final piece of the puzzle fall into place. Peter's web of lies had unraveled completely, leaving him alone with the consequences of his actions. That night, as I tucked Jack into bed, I caught sight of our reflection in the mirror. Gone was the broken, betrayed woman I'd been. In her place stood a survivor, a fighter, a mother who'd moved mountains for her child. Mom? Jack's sleepy voice pulled me from my thoughts. Tell me a story. I smiled, settling beside him. Once upon a time, there was a woman who thought her life was perfect. But then she discovered that sometimes things fall apart, so better things can fall together. As I recounted our journey, weaving it into a tale of triumph over adversity, I realized that this wasn't just Jack's bedtime story. It was our story, a testament to resilience, to the power of love, and to the strength we find when pushed to our limits. The road hadn't been easy, and I knew there would be more challenges ahead. Peter's bitterness, the whispers of gossip, the struggle of single parenthood, they were all part of our new reality. But as I kissed Jack goodnight and stepped out into the quiet of our new home, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. We'd weathered the storm and come out stronger on the other side. This wasn't the happily ever after I'd once dreamed of. It was something better, a hard-won victory, a life rebuilt on my own terms. As I gazed out at the city lights, I smiled. The future was uncertain, but for the first time in years, I was excited to face it. Because now, I knew the truth. I was stronger than any challenge life could throw my way. And that knowledge, that was worth everything we'd been through.